please. Phoebe, I swear to God. You know, some days I just... Hi! I'm like here, kind of, sort of. Hang on. Off to a great start, I see. I am an amber right now. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. I apologize for the noise that's about to ensue.
Jean will be upset if she
That was
catches
actually
us
kind of
lazing around like
fine.
this.
That was fine. That was fine. That was fine. That's a little bit... Okay, that's fine. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Hi! Starting out this stream looking at Amber's butt. Not intentionally. I don't think we'll take Xinyan today, though. Xinyan deserves some love, okay? Don't judge me. I don't have, like, a nice fourth person for this team outside of this guy, but I feel like that's gonna be a horrible, horrible choice. We're going to Dragonspine. Good lord. Taking Xingqiu to Dragonspine. Then again, I did Dragonspine the very first time with Kaya. Like an idiot. Cause I'm cool like that. Man, I don't know. Who am I taking? Who am I taking? I don't know. I don't really have that many options. I don't need a second healer. I guess we'll take Kazuha. He makes sense. Is my mic low? Can you guys hear me okay? Audio is too low. Okay, hang on. Let me just adjust a couple of things here. Is that better? Is that better? A little bit, not really. I have to wait. You guys are on a 20-second delay or something like that. Okay.
I'll remind you again. The law can be both a help and a hindrance.
Is it still low? Might be because I'm a little bit far away. That's okay. I'll put that up too. How's that? Is that good? Is that good? We good? We good? Okay. Well, don't blame me if I blow your ears out if I, like, yelp. Because that'll happen. I'll go right into the little red zone. I can't turn it up anymore. I'm, like, already in a yellow zone. And if I go up anymore, I'll blow out the mic. So I recommend just turning up your volume. This is kind of the limits of probably where I'm about to be. So, okay. Oh, that's loud.
Sometimes the law is compatible with human nature, but okay, sometimes the two conflict. Okay. Balancing the two is a discipline in its own right.
Okay. How are we now? Are we good? Are we good? Okay, we're good. Alright. I'll just try not to yell. Okay. Let's go. Do something. Alright, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. We're gonna go do... Okay, I need to, like, back up here. I'm gonna whack the thing. We're gonna do MoonChase, because I haven't done MoonChase. Well, I've done MoonChase. I just haven't done all of MoonChase. I haven't done this one, which is the Dragonspine one. Because I was saving it so I could do it with you guys, because otherwise, like, I'm just kind of running around aimlessly on stream. So I thought this would be nice. Just, like, kind of do this, and yeah, we'll start down here and kind of work our way up. And we're gonna get super lost. And I do have a list of things that I want to cover and talk about. So this stream is really going to be a lot more like me rambling than it is me interacting. So please don't ask questions if they're not relevant to like the current topic at hand, just because they'll get lost, and I don't want anyone to feel like I'm ignoring them. I'm just telling you flat out, like, I'm probably not gonna get to questions today. I should probably add that as a pinned comment too. but I don't want to. I'll do it, if, you know, if I start seeing that kind of stuff happen, I'll add it as a pinned comment, but I don't want to. Alright. So I'm gonna get started here first. But hi, yes, hello, how are you guys? And then I'll once we kind of like get situated a little bit, then we'll kind of leap into my topic list. I put the topic list in the description box, or at least the beginning of the topic list is in the description box. It might evolve a little bit, because there's some things that I wanted to talk about that like I've been saying I'm gonna talk about, or like I feel like weeks now.
What kind of injurious weather is this?
And I haven't.
It's
oh my god!
cold.
Can we climb, please? I also want to apologize ahead of time that my new controller that I got is really nice, but it's also really clicky. So it doesn't have like really soft keys. It has really clicky keys. So if you hear that a lot, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do about it, other than go back to my old controller, which I don't want to do, and I won't do it. You can't make me.
Remarkable
So there you go.
condition.
They are in remarkable condition. I actually don't know where the boundaries are. Where are the boundaries of this place? Hang on, let me get my bearings real quick. I need to see what my bearings are. Oh my god. Oh, it's a lot bigger than I thought it was. Okay. Okay, I see. That's fine. That's fine.
The case before us is a strange
yes,
and
that's nice,
unprecedented
but please,
one
shush.
indeed.
Shush. I love her, but she talks so much, and that's probably why she's slowly turning into my avatar, because I don't know when to shut up either. That seems to be an ongoing thing. I don't see anything. I don't think there's anything down here, but there are lots of jade chest, jade charm, what are they called? Jade somethings. There's jade things over here that are so useless now. Like, really? Okay. There's my segue. Where did they go? Oh, they're in here. I'm just not looking at them. Yeah, okay. So, I don't know if you guys know this, but when the event first came out, on the very bottom of this little description text over here, it actually said you can exchange these for stuff. And, in a recent hot patch, or like those little daily updates that they do sometimes, they took out the line that says you can exchange this stuff. So these are like they're not even souvenirs. Like you can't even hold on to one, which is kind of dumb. Like I wish you could like take all of them and then exchange them for a souvenir. Like why would that be a thing? That seems like a cool thing to me.
Incinerate! Scratch that!
You know?
Invisible evidence!
No healing. Wait, where's his health bar? Where's his health bar? Is he immortal? I don't like the immortal ones. Why is this guy immortal? Why is everyone immortal? What's going on? I don't like this. Go away. No. Okay, fine.
Think you can bully me?
Okay, really, where are their health bars? I'm confused. Can we kill them? Can we kill them?
Eyes on me!
I want to kill it. I can't kill it though. He won't die. Okay, I'm gonna run away now because I think he's bugged. I'm gonna run away now. Bye. Okay. Yeah, so so they did a hotfix and they removed that thing, and I would have really liked it if they kind of like kept the... Am I still not out of range? Seriously? Okay, here we go. I'm out of range now. I would have really liked it if they had at least kept one of the MoonChase charms just for like a little souvenir. It doesn't cost anybody anything, you know? Like it's just a nice little thing. Like, yes, you were here, you participated in this event. Here's a cool little thing to remember it by. Put it in your teapot. I don't know. Like, I don't really get what's wrong with that, you know? So, and that's a little disappointing to me, but like the whole anniversary thing, now that we're kind of past it and we've made it to the 2.2 live stream, which I won't be making a video on because I don't really think there's anything worth talking about in it. At least in my opinion. Not yet. I have such mixed opinions on the way that they've handled... There's their health bar. It's back now, see? dude's here. Hi. Okay.
Let's move.
Wow.
Shouldn't get careless.
Look, I am so skilled. Did you see that sick move? That was one hell of a cool dodge. I'm kidding, that was bad.
Motion to compel. Scratch down. Sayona special.
Anyway, so I have a lot of really conflicting feelings on... Can you come down? I don't like this guy. I'm just gonna sit here and hit him. Do like 100 damage at a time.
Breath of the flame.
I feel like every streamer except me has covered the anniversary, and my thoughts are still a little bit of a mess. But here's basically what it boils down to for me. The silence on a whole from MiHoYo was really terrible. Like, really bad as far as PR goes, and I work at a marketing firm. So, like, if I did something like that to one of my clients... Okay, why do these guys still not have health bars? Okay, I'm running away again. Bye. I don't like that they don't have health bars. That's just weird. I feel like if I did that to one of my clients, or one of my clients did that to me, like, they just decided, oh, hey, we're not gonna actually tell our customers anything, like, at all. I feel like that would just be me losing an account entirely. Like, it's just such bad practice. It's so bad. I can't figure out any way to justify it other than we don't know how to handle the situation, so maybe if we wait long enough, it'll just blow over. And I've heard some conflicting opinions on, I don't know, like the Genshin community as a whole and how they reacted to it, but in reality, like, it's not the Genshin community as a whole, right? It's the English Genshin community as a whole that kind of handled things weirdly. And I don't even know that it's the majority of people. I think it's honestly like a very vocal minority. Oh, I see a chest. Come back here. I think it's a very vocal minority. Just because it's super weird
condition.
that so many people would have decided to all just go review bomb stuff all at the same time. And like, review bombing itself is a weird way to handle, like, your disappointment in the way something is handled. It's almost like if you were really unhappy that your mom wouldn't take you to the ice cream parlor and then you decided to throw a temper tantrum, like, that's not gonna get you ice cream, you know? Like, being nice to your mom is probably what's going to get you ice cream, not throwing a temper tantrum and screaming at her for like 20 minutes being like, hey mom, I want ice cream, and then whining and crying and screaming and biting. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the only biter. My mother has scars. Good times. But all you had to worry about was whether or not you got ice cream. Anyway, so overall, I'm actually not disappointed with the anniversary rewards, but I get why people are. One of the big issues that I think kind of fed into the whole anniversary debacle in the beginning is that it got really overhyped. And it got really overhyped like 3 months prior to the actual anniversary itself. And that might not be something that applied to everybody, but I started seeing people posting videos and Reddit posts and everything talking about, oh my god, you guys have to just wait for the anniversary. It's gonna be great. All of that kind of stuff.
Motion to compel.
Like, seriously, 3 months ago. And I've always thought that was kind of weird, but I kind of wrote it off because it didn't bother me that much. Because, well, I didn't care much for the anniversary. Like, I'd rather have just a good game that I can enjoy in general, on the whole, than just to, like, have constantly, you know, constant anniversary rewards or huge events once in a while. Like, that kind of thing. But that's my personal preference. I'm more of a consistency over, I know I just passed a jade charm, but I don't know what the elevation is, and, oh, it's, like, way up there. Okay, well, we'll go get it. I just prefer consistency over, you know, bursts. That's why I main Kaya and not Ayaka. I am much happier to have my damage consistently spread out over time than to have, like, incredible massive burst damage. And I get that not everyone is the same. But that's just my preference. Anyway, so mathematically, I went and I looked around at what the anniversary rewards actually are and what they made out to be, right? And I actually don't think they were that bad. I actually think they were pretty good overall, which I recognize sounds odd, but hear me out on this. Initially, we only got 10 summons, and most people were like really upset because they're just like, oh my god, it was 10 summons, really? You're just gonna give us a single tenfold and call it a day? But the thing is like, it's not just... Oh, hi. It's not just a tenfold and call it a day, you know?
Looky, time for your arraignment.
Can you die, please? I have a hard time multitasking sometimes. I get really, really sidetracked, so I'm sorry if I lose my train of thought. Oh, you're here. I don't like you. Hit me. Hit me. Or, okay, fine, don't. That's okay.
Wind strike.
That's okay, too.
Incinerate.
Go away. Really?
Shake it after.
One day I'll figure out, like, the exact timing of her shields, because it's super annoying that she just kind of regenerates it whenever. Alright, so we got a tenfold, right? Tenfold, no big deal. I'm running a bow light set, so my damage is, like, down right now. So we got a tenfold to start with, which is kind of an underwhelming anniversary. But I've always kind of thought of the MoonChase event as, like, in part the anniversary. I know it's, like, not the anniversary, but I always thought, like, the timing lined up pretty well, so it may as well be, like, a little in-game anniversary kind of thing. So for me, that was okay. I thought, like, having a nice little celebratory event in Leeway was kind of cool. And then we got, like, free tenfold. That's awesome. But 10 fates feels like a lot less than, say, 1,600 Primo Gems. Because if MiHoYo went and gave you, like, 1,600 Primo Gems in one sitting, you'd be like, holy shit, right? Because, like, 36-starring Spiral Abyss gives you, what, like, 500? Something like that? Which really isn't that much, because it's like, I don't know, 3 singles or something. Okay, either I am, like, super blind with these chests, or there are just not that many. Both are possible here, because, I mean, I'm partially paying attention. I'm not paying as much attention as I really should be. Hey, I found one! Slap Zhongli's butt!
Ooh, we can definitely write this off as incidental gains.
Well, because, you know, because it looks like his butt. Anyway. Yeah, so if they gave you, like, 1,600 Primo Gems, I feel like a lot less people would complain. Because it would feel like more, and it would take them longer to be like, hey, wait a minute, this is only a tenfold, you know? So I think that was mistake number 1 on MiHoYo's part, was just to give us fates, when they really should have just given us gems, like, straight up. At least that's my opinion on it. But the other thing is, like, it did seem, in hindsight, like that was all they had originally planned to give us. And that they thought that 10 Primo Gems, or 10 Primo Gems, yeah. 10 fates, limited fates, was more than generous for them. And what that really tells us is a little bit less about how much they value the anniversary and a little bit more about how they how valuable they consider their currency. You know, like how they actually value their currency. Which I think is an interesting insight in and of itself. Okay, there's a thing over here and I can't see. Oh, there it is. Wow, look at it. It's right in the crack. Right in the butt crack of the bridge. Bridge crack. It just tells you that they really, really, really value their summoning currency as, like, the most valuable thing in the game. Right? So they thought that was sufficient, and then realized that they were getting a lot of backlash from the global community, but also realized that they weren't getting a lot of backlash from the Chinese and the Japanese community and like just the Asian community in general. It was mostly the Western side of things. And I can go into a little bit of why that was. And then they decided, well, we were gonna give this paid bundle out, and now I think not that many people are gonna buy it because they're not really happy with what we did for the anniversary, but we don't have time to kind of like, you know, make up for
with wind and cloud.
what I want to do.
Eyes on me.
Thank you, camera angle. That is the most useful thing right there. Most useful angle ever. Okay, what am I looking at? Okay, nothing. I see. I lost my train of thought again. Anyway, so they thought the bundle wasn't gonna sell. So they decided, well, let's just hand out most of the bundle for free. And so they actually gave us more Primo Gems than what was scheduled to be in that paid bundle that they had already previously announced. And then they gave us the glider for free, which is like a nice little commemorative thing now, even though it's not actually anniversary centric. It's like
Incinerate!
you know, it's concert centric, which is kind of weird when you think about it. We ended up getting another 1,600 Primo Gems. So that brings us up to 3,200 Primo Gems just for freebies, right? So you get 1,600 from the login bonus, you get 1,600 from the little in-game emails that go out, and you call it good. I think I'm like way off course. I don't know, where am I? And I know that doesn't, I am actually off course. I need to go back. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot. 3,200 Primo Gems is a 20 summons, 2 tenfolds, right? But when you really think about it, on average, per patch, we get about 8,400 free-to-play Primo Gems. 8,000. That's not a lot. And you obviously get some assorted intertwined feats. I'm not actually going to fight them. I just wanted to warm up. So 3,200 out of about 8,400, right? We got a 50% bonus on what we normally get per month or per patch. And I don't think that's bad. I actually think that's pretty good overall. It just doesn't feel really good, right? And I think that's actually where MiHoYo went wrong, because I don't actually think that the actual summon rewards, like the Primo Gem rewards, were that bad. Because 3,200, again, it's basically a 50% increase, a little under, than, you know, what we'd get in a normal patch, which I think is great for an anniversary month. Where I think they went wrong is they didn't make it feel good, right? They sent them to us via in-game mail. They gave us the intertwined fates and not like straight up Primo Gems, because numbers make people feel better. So giving someone 10 of something, even though it has the same value as like 100 of something else, it just, like if I gave you a $1 bill and I gave you 100 pennies, one of them's gonna make you feel a little bit better, even though they're worth the exact same amount. And I'm tempted to say like most people would really enjoy getting 100 pennies instead of a $1 bill. Maybe not like if you were getting paid $100 and they gave you, you know, the whole thing in pennies, because that would be a little excessive. But you know what I mean? Like, it just makes you feel like you got more, even though you technically got something of equal value. I'm in the wrong place again. I'm going the wrong direction. I'm going to warp somewhere else because I am, like, not doing this right. So anyway, I do think that part would make you feel a little bit better. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And then the other thing that I think they really screwed up on is just giving us free, non-valuable items that have, like, intrinsic value. So, for example, we're all playing during the first anniversary. Give us something that's unique to the first anniversary, right?
Ooh,
give us, like...
definitely write this off as incidental gains.
Give us a special commemorative name card. It costs them literally nothing to do. I mean, yeah, it would take some, like, internal resource cost to paint the name card and program it in, but, like, let's be real. it doesn't matter how complicated your system is, there's no way programming a new name card is gonna be all that difficult. All it does is change one thing. It's not that big of a deal. And to do that like once a year, like this year it's a green one, this year it's a red one, this year it's a blue one, and you just kind of have it as a collection, like that would feel good, you know? For them to just like make some social media posts that are a bit more about like, hey, we appreciate you, the gamers, and just like tell us some good stories. Like for them to just give us more acknowledgement, I think would have been a really good thing. And it wouldn't have costed them anything in terms of like the bottom line for what they're earning for the game. So that's kind of where I think they went wrong. And it's really unfortunate because they've done a lot of anniversary events, and I'm not quite sure why Genshin is struggling where a game like Honkai has always done really well. It does not make any sense to me. And I can't really figure out what happened, but I will say this. A little bit of digging kind of brought up some rumors about MiHoYo's inner workings. And it seems like for quite a while they've been sitting on their laurels as far as PR goes. They've just been kind of like saying they're going to listen to people, but they're not actually listening to people. Oh, I can't. I don't know why I did that. And I think they've just been like, oh, you know, this game is doing really well financially. People are playing. We have good engagement rates. Numbers are what matter. And then they call it good. But in reality, it's when things are really good that you should be the most paranoid that things are not good. When it comes to a business. Like, if your sales are really good in a business, you don't just sit back and stop advertising your product. You know, you don't just stop doing good customer service. You don't just stop those things. You're like, okay, this is going really well. We need to continue what we're doing, and then we also need to improve on it. And that's also where I think MiHoYo has not done very well. Because I think they got really complacent. Okay, so I am like right on the cusp here. I see. Cool. So that's where I think they have not done really well. Now, I know that from a little bit of digging, it sounds like somebody got fired over this whole anniversary thing. And someone from the global PR department got fired, and I don't know who. I don't know if they got demoted. I don't know like what that whole thing actually is, but they did hire. They hired a new person. Her name was Janice something, and she is a global PR director over at Bandai Namco. Or she was. She's not now. She's going to be working for Genshin. And it sounds like they are actually going to attempt to do better in the future. What that actually means and what that looks like, who knows? I sure don't. That is not one of the chests I'm looking for here. But I think that's an important thing to take away from this. Like, we have to recognize that at some level our voices were heard. Whether or not it was because of review bombing or whatever, which is still like a whole nother thing. Like, we should not have, as a community, we should not be encouraging the behavior that, you know, goes out and reviews bombs games that have nothing to do with Genshin. Like, that's just a little ridiculous. Why would you do that?
Huh.
I don't understand who has that much time on their hands. I really don't. If you're someone who has that much time on your hand, like, I have some suggestions for how better to spend a couple hours. I really do. I really, really, really do. Like, just DM me. I will give you some ideas. Some more productive ideas. Anyway, food for thought. So I think we should just keep an eye on it going forward. And I do think we should consider a lot of the stuff that they do seriously, but I also think we need to consider what they do in context, right? Like, Genshin isn't really like any other gacha game, but it has a lot of the things about gacha games that not only make them popular, but make them easily accessible. And not all of those things are good. In fact, a lot of them are not good. Like, people always talk about the resin, for example. That's like the biggest... I just can't believe I missed that. The biggest complaint I ever hear about this game is like, oh my god, they need to fix the resin issue, fix the resin issue, it's like, no, they're never gonna fix the resin issue, because to them, it's not an issue. This is a way for them to actually, like, pace you. Because they know that if they don't put in gates like that, people will blow through content even faster than they are currently. Like, imagine if you could just, you know, go through as many domains as you wanted to in a single day, and that you could do as many talent book runs as you wanted to in a single day. And, like, you could blow through so much content super fast. And yeah, it's an artificial way to gate content, but sometimes there's not really a better option. Just from, like, a game design standpoint, you know? There's just not a better option.
Ooh, we can definitely write
And
this
so,
off
like,
as
for
incidental
someone like
gains.
me, using resin is, like, a nice way to incentivize me to play for, like, 20 minutes a day. And honestly, like, I have a really busy schedule, just in general. Because on top of, like, taking care of my own stuff and running my own errands and taking care of my own house and all my dogs and, you know, my real job and doing YouTube content and everything else, like, where am I? I want to go over here. I don't have time to do that kind of stuff. And so what happens is when you get people like me who have lots of other obligations and can't spend like 5, 6, 7 hours every couple of days playing this game, it's really easy for them to get left behind by the people who can and the people who do. So, you know, those god piece artifacts that people keep talking about, like, because they're so rare, they're only rare because of resin, right? Because if you could roll an infinite number of times, you can get an infinite number of god piece artifacts. That's just the way it is. Right now, they gate it behind a paywall, so they make whales pay for it. Or, you know, well, not even whales, because, like, you know, dolphins can resin refresh once in a while, and it's not really a big deal. Or, you know, even a free-to-play can every once in a while if they really need to, if they don't need to summon for anything. So just know they're not going to fix the resin issue. They might increase the cap, they might decrease some costs, but they won't get rid of it. And every game has, every gacha game, every mobile game has a stamina function, and this just happens to be Genshin's.
Huh,
And
where have you been hiding?
because Genshin feels more like an open world RPG, like a Breath of the Wild kind of thing, people have a disconnect where the resin fits in. Because in Breath of the Wild, you can play indefinitely as long as you want to. You know, you don't have a resin. You know, Link's hearts don't, like, deplete over time just by standing around. It doesn't happen. Now, that said, there are some things going on in China politically that may bring about some kind of changes to resin in the way that it refreshes. So while I don't think resin will go away entirely, like, the nature of it might change. When it refreshes, might change. Like, they might increase the limit so that, you know, you can actually hold, like, 4 days worth of resin at a time. Like, maybe they don't increase the recharge rate where it's, like, 1 per 8 minutes, but they'll increase the limit so that you can hold, like, 500 resin, right? They might do that. But it's not going to go away. So, like, asking for changes like that isn't really helpful. Saying fix the resin issue isn't really helpful. Saying we would like to have an increased resin cap, or we want to be able to hold more condensed resin so that, you know, I don't lose resin on days where I don't have time to play. Like, things like that are really helpful. Giving that kind of constructive criticism is really good. But just a lot of the way that we come off as the English Genshin community is kind of abrasive in the way that, like, we don't do a very good job articulating what it is we want fixed and why. You know? Things that we perceive to be an issue are not things that other people perceive to be an issue. And MiHoYo has to
Nice.
balance
I'm starting
a
to lose
lot
count.
of different opinions. Oh boy. There's a Hydro one and a Cryo one, and I'm out of here. I don't wanna. Go away. Hang on.
Shaken and stirred. Diana special. Time for your arraignment.
They're trying to balance, like, a lot of people here. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, or that, like, they're right or we're wrong for doing it. It's just that, like, sometimes we have to stop and take a look at, well, what are they actually trying to do, like, outside of just making money, because that's what everyone always boils it down to. What is it that they're trying to do? Because there are really two branches within a game company like that, right? Like, there's the executive branch that talks about money all the time. And then there's the development branch, which, you know, has completely different ideas and wants to do very different things. And they're not as restricted by, you know, financial decisions or, like, making their bottom line. You know, like, they're not restricted like that. And when I talk about, like, we have to think about things from their perspective, I think it's more about thinking about things from the perspective of the developers and not from the executive management level stuff. Because they really are different.
Fallen leaves, adorn my night.
So,
It's fine.
I just kind of want him to die on his own, yeah. Like, just inhale the fire and burn out the lungs, yeah. So developers with resin, right, they're trying to time gate their content because they can only churn out content so fast, and they want to make sure that the game is somewhat, I hate to use the word balanced, but I don't have a better word, for a greater variety of players. Because Genshin is a really heavily based casual game. As much as, you know, so many content creators will lead you to not believe. The vast majority of the player base in Genshin is really casual. They don't really care about min-maxing. They just want their favorite characters, and they might buy, you know, like a Welkin or a Battle Pass every now and again, and they might buy like a $20 top-up pack for their birthday or something. But, like, the vast majority are really casual. And just don't care about that. And because they don't care about that, like, it's a game of numbers, right? So the vast majority don't care about resin, just to keep using this dead horse as an example as we beat it to death again for a second time. You know, the vast majority of those casual players don't. And so if you have, like, say, 20% of your people saying, I don't like resin, and then the other part's not saying anything, MiHoYo doesn't perceive that as a big of a problem as, like, people who are asking for different kind of characters or different bug fixes, although we also have to recognize that a lot of bugs aren't getting fixed, which is another problem altogether. But anyway, that's kind of my rant on how the anniversary went. I want to just point out that we are also a little bit at fault for this anniversary in terms of, I mentioned it earlier a little bit with hype, but, like, just when you hype yourself up so much that you give yourself expectations that may or may not be, oh dear, I need to find a thing, but I want to get the oh, I can do it here, right here.
Can't handle your drink.
Just heal Kazuha for a minute. You know, what's considered generous for one company isn't necessarily considered generous for another company. What's considered valuable in one game is not really considered valuable in another game. For example, I used to play Fire Emblem Heroes, and there were literally hundreds of characters to play and choose from. Genshin is never going to reach that level, no matter how big it gets, all right? They're just never going to be hundreds. There might be 100 one day. I don't even think, I think we'll get to 72. I think 72 is a good number, but maybe we'll get to 100, 150 maybe, like, at best. But, like, there were hundreds of characters, and you would need 11 copies of each one to max them, right? And so the amount that it would cost you, like, the value of that summon currency was a lot lower in that game. Just because summoning was such a big
I'm starting to lose count.
Whereas in Genshin, summoning is really, like, less of a big thing. Even though a lot of people make a big deal about, oh, you gotta summon. It's like, yeah, but we only get 2 banners a month. Or not a month, a patch. I keep saying month, but it's really like 6 weeks. It's a little over a month and a half. So, you know, they consider the value is different. The value is very different. And what I would like to do is kind of take this opportunity to, like, reset some expectations. Not because I think MiHoYo can't do better or that they shouldn't do better, because I think they should, but just so that we don't end up in a position where we're really disappointed again. because nothing's really worse than setting up your expectations to be something that you think is even remotely realistic, and then just not having them even remotely met. You know, like so many people said, oh, we're gonna get a free 5-star. Well, we didn't get a free 5-star. We didn't even get a free 4-star. And all that tells us is that MiHoYo considers that to be way too valuable a gift, right? Whether that's right or wrong is kind of irrelevant. It just means that, you know, it's, again, just how they value things. So, I think we just need to expect anniversaries to be like a slightly more special event than a normal event. Not like normal anniversaries as we would think of them, but like Genshin's gonna treat them like a normal event. You know, we're not gonna get a whole lot of commemorative stuff. We're not gonna get like a ridiculous amount of primo gems. We're gonna get like a 50, maybe if we're lucky, a 60% bonus on our per patch quota. And if you're not okay with that, because you're only playing with the rewards, then this is such a horrible thing to say, but this might not be the game for you. Not because you don't find the game enjoyable, but just because, like, if you're investing so much into a game that the rewards a company gives you actually causes you physical outrage elsewhere, you kind of need to reevaluate where you're putting your energy in your life, in my opinion. But, I suppose that's like a whole different topic altogether when you really think about it. But yeah. Anyway. It's, I see I see in the chat, Drugnut said, so don't get excited, don't rush the game, don't complain about the issues because majority doesn't care, just don't engage with the game, that would be disappointing. Sounds good to you. I think you're misinterpreting what I'm saying, and I actually think you're kind of illustrating what I'm saying, though. It's okay to be upset with a game, and it's okay to give feedback on a game. I don't want anyone to feel like that's not okay. Feedback is such a crucial part of development as a whole. Of anything, really? Because if you don't have any feedback, like, how can you make something better or worse? Like, you can't change anything in any progressive direction. It's just stagnant, right? Like, nothing changes.
I'll remind you again.
And that's not good.
The log...
But what you have to recognize is that this is gonna sound really bad too, but this is a game, and games are meant to be played for fun. Okay? It doesn't really matter if you enjoy the aesthetics of the game, or that, you know, your favorite character's in it, or that it has your favorite battle system. If at any point you are playing a game and it is not fun to you, and that is consistent, you should not be playing that game. And that is my strong belief, right? I know that not everyone shares this opinion with me, and that's okay too. But this is my opinion on it, right? It's just that I believe games should be played for fun. If you're not enjoying it, take a break. Go do something else. Like, invest your energy in a different game. It's okay. You don't have to just play one game hardcore. And you don't have to be perfect at everything. Like, it's just... I find it really frustrating when people get so upset that they start bringing everyone else around them into their anger and into their I lost track of where I was, like, physically in the space again. As I got sidetracked. I have no idea where I am. I gotta check the map. There needs to be, like, a better UI thing for this. Like, see, this is something I would like to actually give feedback on, is, like, UI for this. Like, if you're in here, this should be marked as a quest so that you can just check your normal map and see where it is. It's not, which is aggravating to me, at least. Where am I? I am over here, so I'm, like, not actually... Okay, I need to go this way. That way. So yeah, but, like, when people say... Let's actually talk a little bit about endgame content, because I know that's kind of where your brain is at and what you're kind of getting at here. Genshin is pretty notorious for not having a good or really any endgame content outside of the Spiral Abyss. And I'm not going to play devil's advocate here, I'm just going to state a couple of facts. The vast majority of the player base is not able to clear the Spiral Abyss past floor 10. Like, full stop. They are not able to clear it past floor 10. The percentage of players that are actually able to clear the Spiral Abyss past floor 10 is actually ridiculously small compared to what most people think it is. In fact, I think more than half the player base, last I checked, hasn't even wanted to attempt the Spiral Abyss, even for like the free Shangling. Because they hear that it's hard, they see that it's hard, oh, it's like that's the end game content, and that's kind of like their perception of it. So again, MiHoYo's looking at it like, oh, well, the vast majority of people don't even play this. How much energy do we want to put in giving us a new end game, right? And they might be working on a new type of end game, and that would be really cool if they were, because it would be kind of nice to have something that, you know, whales could kind of just go ham at. But at the same time, they need to make sure that most, if not all, of the content is accessible by all players, at least to some degree. Which is a really difficult challenge, you know. Because, like, why would you summon for all these really expensive weapons and all these really crazy OP characters if, you know, there isn't any content that requires them? But at the same time, if you lock people out of that content just because they don't spend all that money, you're alienating a good section of your player base. And I like to think of Genshin as an MMO, and the reason why I like to think of it that way is because MMOs have a really unique structure in terms of games, and they're kind of like a pyramid, but like an upside down pyramid, because the people who spend the most on the game support the game for the people who don't really spend anything, all the free-to-plays. However, you still need free-to-plays in an MMO for it to feel alive, for the world to feel populated, for the world to feel like, you know, it's not a dead game, right? Like, you need to have people to flaunt your OP gear against in order to feel like that gear is worth pulling. So there's this really delicate balance that happens with MMOs that I think Genshin could learn a lot from. And I don't know if they ever think of their game in that way, because it's not technically massively multiplayer. But their game style and the way it's structured is very reminiscent of it. So there's that. But again, if you rush the game content, right? Like, you rush all the story content, you rush the 100%ing the islands, like, you do everything first day when it comes out, right? And then you clear the Spiral Abyss, 36 stars, and you're like, okay, now what? I'm bored. I have all these godlike pieces because I've been resin refreshing for so much, and I don't have to farm for anything anymore unless a new character comes out and needs new materials or whatever, right? Play a different game. Like, that's honestly what it comes down to. Go play a different game. Because you have enough time in your day to play games that you can play more games than just this. You don't just have to binge this game and just this game. You can go play a different game after you binge this game, or you can play 2 games together a little bit slower. So I hate to be that person, but if you are blowing through content, it really is your fault. And it's not really up to MiHoYo to make a shit ton of content for you to, like, continuously go through. Unless you want to, like, constantly try to, you know, go through the Spiral Abyss and do, like, crazy meme clears or whatever. And again, that's my opinion. I'm lost again. I need to, like, not talk while I'm doing this, but, like, if I don't talk, it's like, yeah. Yeah, see, here's the thing, Allie. In chat,
The case before us is a strange and
She's-
unprecedented
They
one
said,
indeed.
you would be surprised how easy it is to rush directly to Inazuma in a week. MiHoYo made sure regions are new player friendly. They did not do that, and it is not really new player friendly. Genshin actually has a pretty steep learning curve overall, in terms of mechanics and everything else. To, like, actually learn what you're doing and to do it well, especially if you're not typically good at video games or if you don't really do math all that well. So I would really challenge the opinion that these new regions are new player friendly, because I have a lot of people who've been playing this game since launch, but who don't really consider themselves like really good gamers. They just really enjoy this game and they just like to chill in it. And they have a really hard time with Inazuma, just as it is. And they find artifacts that have one good percentage substat as being really good. You know, actually, hang on, I'll be right back. Hang on, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Are we just going to ignore that Genshin stops you in the quests for your adventure level and that it sends you into a grind? Yes. And here's the thing. The reason why it does that, and it only really does that twice, technically, is because Genshin is very unique in what it's trying to do. Most people, if they just play a game for the story, they're not going to be inclined to explore the world. And the developers really want to incentivize people to explore the world, right? If you don't have a reason to explore the world, then why would you if your primary concern is the story? That's part of the reason why they gate you out of real story content after a certain point. I think I just have to, like... I don't know why I'm going this way. I'm gonna go down here and wander around in the corner. Like, they're doing it on purpose. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Who knows? But they're doing it on purpose, and it's done very intentionally. Like, for example, to use Breath of the Wild as another perfect kind of comparison for this, because the two methods are a little bit different, you can technically go straight from the Shrine of Resurrection, where you wake up as Link at the very beginning of the game. You can go straight to Ganon. You don't need anything. You'll have 3 hearts, no armor, barely any weapons, and like 4 weapon slots or something like that, which is ridiculous. And it is really hard to beat Ganon like that. Okay? Like, really hard. But notice that they don't let you leave the Great Plateau in the very beginning until you have all 4 runes, unless you want to break the game like so many speedrunners do, right? And they do that because...
Shake a hamster!
Come here.
Clouds high. The birds call.
They do that because they want you to learn like the core game mechanics, right? Because those are your main exploration tools. But if you know that you can go straight to Ganon,
Let's appraise
right?
the value on this.
And you think you have the skills to do it, why would you ever be incentivized to explore the rest of the world? Like, they have to give you some sort of incentive to explore the world. So let's say you went to Ganon and you got your ass kicked because you only have 3 hearts and one of his attacks takes like 5 hearts, right? You're just gonna get 1 shot if you missed even like a single dodge. Well, now your incentive is to figure out, well, like, how do I get more health so that I can take a couple more hits? It's like, oh, well, you have to find these, like, special shrines. And to find the shrines, you have to explore the world, and it forces you to do that. And that's how they handle it in a single-player game. Like, for a non-gacha, like, that's complete. I shouldn't call it a single-player game. Genshin is also a single-player game. It's more like, that is a one-off game. It's a complete game. They don't constantly update it, and we're ignoring the fact that it has a single piece of DLC, because that's kind of irrelevant. But that's just kind of like my point with all this, is the design directions that they went may not be the best for people, but they did it with intention, and they did something that works, and it may not be the best solution, and it may change in the future. But like when we talk about the problems within the game, we really have to sit down and think about, like, why is this a problem for me? Because the reason why resin is annoying for me sometimes, because it is because, you know, I might want to do all of my runs on a Friday night. But does that mean I technically need more resin in a day? Or does that mean that I just need to be able to hold more condensed resin so that I can hold all of my resin from the whole week?
Weather is this?
And then blow it all at once on Friday.
Cold.
Right? Very different problems. Very different problems. And yeah, existential bread, it feels like maybe MiHoYo is trying to do too much, catered towards way too many people. I 100% agree. Like, you'll hear a lot. People will say, oh, Windtrace was the best event Genshin ever had. And then other people will say, Windtrace was the worst event Genshin ever had, right? You'll get a lot of polarizing opinions. You get people who adore the teapot and, you know, will spend hours kind of like playing their Genshin Animal Crossing in it. And then you'll get people who are just like, listen, my teapot is for like farming EXP books and Mora, because that's what's important to me. And MiHoYo is trying to do a lot and appeal to a very wide demographic. And honestly, I don't think it works all the time. And I think that's part of the problem. But I also don't know that we can really change that, because a lot of the people who play the game play it for very different reasons, because the game gives you so much to choose from. And that's kind of the beauty of it, you know? But anyway, I think, because let's talk Endgame for a little bit, though. I do think that Endgame Genshin is really interesting, because most people are just like, oh, well, Spyro this is so boring, or, oh, you know, like, there's nothing to do in Endgame. Why would I summon over all this crazy gear and stuff like that? I do think that kind of thing is pretty easy to mitigate. And I think they will add additional endgame content. I can't imagine a scenario where they wouldn't. But I think you'll still have to wait for like another 5 to 6 months for it. So long as you don't get bored of the game before then. But if you do, just take a break and come back when it comes here, you know? Like, there's no shame in that. Like, taking a break is good for you. You gotta take rests, you know? But, you know, like some people in the chat have been saying, like, you know, the things like Theater Mechanicus don't need to leave the game. I think the reason why they leave the game is because MiHoYo wants to make them a little bit more enticing when they do come back around as events. But things like Windtrace should totally be a teapot game mode. You should totally be able to play Windtrace in your teapot. There is zero reason why we should not be able to play Windtrace in your teapot. You know? Things like that. I need to fight some enemies so that Diona can heal my party. I don't know that they will, but I feel like that could be something that people could ask for in feedback surveys. Be like, hey, listen, I really love Theater Mechanicus. I really loved Windtrace. Like, is there any way that those sorts of things could be added to the teapot? And maybe they don't give us rewards, but I would love to be able to, like, play those game modes, you know? Like, whenever I want to, because they were really fun. And giving those sorts of pieces of feedback is really, really helpful. Because everyone's got a different idea of what endgame is, you know? But MiHoYo is spreading themselves really thin. Like, Honkai does one thing really well. It kind of does two things, but it does one thing really well and then one thing, like, kind of okay. Honkai does combat really well. The combat is super fun. Like, if you're into games for, like, the gameplay and the combat, go play Honkai. In your Genshin downtime. Seriously, go play Honkai in your Genshin downtime. You don't have to like pay attention to the story or anything. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but like, go play Honkai for the battle system. But though, if you do like really complex multiverse stories, like Honkai also has a really good story, but if you're not good at combat, it's not very friendly to you in terms of like letting you play through the story even if you're not that good at the game. It's really not that friendly in that way. So that's why I say it does one thing really well, even though it has a good story that's worth like paying attention to. Yeah. But yeah. What I would really like is for previous content to be replayable a little easier, because sometimes cutscenes get skipped, or you know, we forget what happens in them, or we want to kind of do them again, or we want to go look at old dungeons again, or something like that. And it would be really cool if they could, like, put the quests back in the game, but then give us, like, a challenge mode where they give you, like, ridiculous, I don't know, like, ridiculous, scalings on the enemy, so you can face, like, a Hilichurl with, like, 3 million HP or something in the We Will Be Reunited quest. And you have to do it in, like, 4 minutes in order to escape the poison room. Like, something like that could be really fun. And also give people an excuse to replay the story and get more involved in it, which I think would be really cool. But, I mean, I could sit here and, like, spew ideas for this whole thing all day. But, like, I do think things will get better. I do. I just think we need to curb our expectations a little bit. And that's a tough pill to swallow, so I'll put it one more way. I think there'll be more good changes in 2022 than there were in 2021, and here's why. Because I want to leave you guys with, like, good thoughts before we switch topics here. The reason why I think they'll be better is because MiHoYo literally hired, like, 1,100 people last year. Come here. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to grow your company by 1,100? They had a 72% increase in their staff in 2021. That is insane. Like, ridiculous level of growth. Yeah, I know I can see them in Elemental Sight. It's just that, like, I'm talking, and so I'm just kind of, like, wandering, and the chests are really just more an excuse for me to to wander not as aimlessly. It's so easy to lose your train of thought. It really is. Yeah, so actually, you know what I should do? You know what I should have done? You know who I should have put on this party? Kazuha's not good in this party. I should have done this. Oh wait, hang on 1 second. She needs that one. There. Better. Things are better now. What was I saying? I have totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, see, I told you. You lose your train of thought so easy. It's so bad. Oh, man. What was I saying? Can I have, like, an instant replay button on my life, please? Like, really? I guess I should start looking seriously, because, like, I think I'm out of, like, all the easy ones. Oh, right, I remember. Okay. So, yeah, so, curbing expectations, right. I actually think we can take the expectations that we had from 2021 and put them towards 2022, and here's why. Like I said, they increased their whole staff by, like, 72%, which is insane, like, absolutely incredible. Like, you have to move into a new building, that's, like, a shit ton of computers you have to get configured, that's a lot of training you have to do, like, there's so much, right? So much you have to do. And it's just, like, the growth curve is ridiculous. So, like, a lot of the reason why we had so much filler content in 2021, I actually attribute to the fact that we just grew so much, and there's just so much to deal with. When you have a player base that, like, far exceeds your expectations, like, you have to hire a lot of customer support people to respond to all those things, right? Or else you get backlogs. You have to hire, like, more programmers to process things. You have to hire your project managers. You have to hire your executives, your planners, your designers, your additional developers, your QA testers. And I'm not talking about, like, the open betas. I'm talking, like, the literal hired QA testers, which are different. They have a very different function. Like, there's so much coordination, and all of that takes time. Like, you can't rush it. So the fact they've been able to put out as much content as they have at the growth rate that they've had, to me, is incredibly impressive. And part of the reason why I think 2022 will be better is because their growth is so much more stable now. They have a really strong team. They have, like, you know, all of the resources they could ever need. They have the funding they can need. They have the credit lines that they need. They have all of that kind of stuff that we don't really think about. as being important until it actually is. So I actually think we can expect some decent things in 2022 insofar as like content, story, endgame modes, more permanent modes, like all of that kind of stuff. I think all of that kind of stuff can be put on 2022, and I think that can be realistic. What I don't think is realistic is to assume that 2022's second year anniversary will be better than 2021's. I think it'll be about as good as the one we had right now, but with a little bit more intention behind it, and without all of the drama. Because we won't have, like, the review bombing and stuff, right? 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 Like, we're not gonna have that, right? Please? But yeah, Lorenzo, that's exactly what I think. Like, I feel like he said, I feel like part of the messy response was because MiHoYo was a small company suddenly thrust into a situation they have a difficulty handling. Yeah. They've never handled anything on this scale before. Like, Honkai was a big game, but it's not anywhere near the size of Genshin. Like, it's not. The sorts of things that you don't know is ridiculous. As someone who's been involved with scaling many small companies over the years, as a marketing and financial advisor, like, it's just, there's a lot of surprises, you know? I know that they also turned down an offer from Tencent last year, again. So, like, there's a lot going on. We also have to consider that there's a lot of stuff going on politically in China that may impact Genshin significantly. And I'm not going to fire off warning bells because I don't think there's reason to have any warning bells yet, but I think that being aware of them is really good. I might just go ask the lady where, like, some of these chests are, because I don't know where they are. And I don't really want to hunt for them either. Oh, there's one. That's not one of the event chests. Come on, man. You're one of the spawn chests.
Ooh, we can
went to
definitely
57.
write this off as incidental gains.
I'm sure we can. But, like, the list of stuff that the CCP is trying to get banned through the Chinese Gaming Association is basically every single element in Genshin.
Incinerate!
And I'm not just talking about feminized men. I'm talking about, like, depictions of decaying mental faculties. Like, that's a huge one. The reason why that's huge is because erosion, which is, like, the big plot point in Genshin right now, hey, would not even be allowed, right? So there's things like that we also have to be aware of, and I'm sure MiHoYo is trying to figure out how they work around that. Hey. No, come on.
Think you can bully me? Incinerate!
Again, no alarm bells need to be sounded because right now it's just an opt-in. And I'm sure that, you know, having been the company they are, in the place that they are, subject to all the things that they have been, that they're very well aware and have plans for things, but all plans take time to execute, so just stuff to be aware of. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I just want to get that out of the way, because, like, I see a lot of people talking about the anniversary, like, oh, this is completely unrealistic, oh, this is completely, like, ridiculous, oh, MiHoYo's silence is awful. It's like, yes it is, but I do think it'll change and get better, and I think, for the most part, voices were heard and people understand things. One other thing I actually want to mention before I swap topics here, you know how I said, like, it's mostly the English community that had an issue with the anniversary rewards, and, like, the Japanese and Chinese communities in particular didn't seem all that upset by them? Or, like, not to the point of rage? Even though they tend to arguably have more of a hardcore base. Part of that had to do with a law that was passed a few years ago, and I forget what game it was. I think it was for Grand Blue Fantasy. But I don't know if you guys know this, but gacha games didn't used to have pities. They didn't used to have, like, a hard pity, like, when you hit 90 summons, like, you get the character. They did not used to have that. There was a whole lawsuit that went through in Japan that forced the company running Grand Blue Fantasy to actually implement a pity system. And I forget the reason why. It was because like some guy spent like an exorbitant amount of money trying to get one character and couldn't get it, and he was like calling it like I don't remember what it was, but whatever it was, he won the case, and that's why pity systems like are a thing, right? And so Japanese gamers remember that time. They remember what it was like to play games way back then, and whether or not they're, you know, right to feel what's the word, like grateful that that's not the situation anymore, or that they don't have to deal with that, or like, oh yeah, you know what, but we get pity, or we get this, we get that, whether or not they're trying to justify it, that's part of the reason why there was no outrage from them. Which I thought was an interesting thing. Can you shield up, please? She's so annoying. Jeez. I don't want to be in the boat. I don't want to be in the boat. I saw a chest over here, but I have lost sight of it. The color of blue that Yanfei is like the most relatable shade of I am cold.
Huh. Let's appraise the value on this.
Renadelis, they did not have nearly the same amount of outrage. They really did not. I don't know what articles you've been reading, but I've read plenty. I haven't seen anything along those lines, and I've checked the forums myself with my very rudimentary Japanese. Like, I'm not saying any of them were happy about the anniversary rewards, but I don't think that the amount of rage was anywhere near what the Western community exhibited. And you can disagree with me on that. That's fine. That's just was not my experience going over there. So, you know, everyone's got a different experience. And that was mine. I feel like I just spend most of my time going up rocks. Genshin's actually ruined a couple of games for me because, like, I want to go and, like, climb everything now in, like, every game. And then I can't, and I get really frustrated. Yeah, I think one very quick distinction I want to make before I just drop the subject altogether and move on, because I think I've kind of talked it to death, is that there's a difference between disappointment and rage. Chinese and Japanese communities were not raging. They were just really disappointed. And I feel like that's really important to distinguish. Yeah. Anyway. I think that's really all I have to say on that. But I think I sort of talked about it with Genshin Burnout. I think I talked a little bit about Genshin Burnout. But I wanna talk a little bit more about content creating. So slightly less depressing topic, but it might actually come off as a little bit more depressing. So one thing I've been seeing among my fellow content creators is a lot of burnout. Like, a lot of people are really burned out, right? They're bored, they don't have anything to do, all that kind of stuff. And it's not what I meant to do. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. Wires everywhere, just so many wires! Yeah, I know. God, she's so small, but she's so loud. I don't know if you can hear her. If you can hear a little dog barking in the background, that's Phoebe. She's a little white Tic Tac. And she's annoying as hell, but she's also cute as hell, so she gets away with it. Ain't that the way it goes, though. Yeah, so I've been seeing a lot of burnout in the community at large, and I think that's just kind of par for the course, that 1 year, honestly. And I mentioned earlier that Genshin's a very different type of game, and I think that's part of why the burnout kicks in, because it's the sort of game that you feel like should be playable for like hours at a time, but was never actually built with that intention. Maybe for like an hour at a time, but it wasn't really built for people who want to like hardcore play and binge for like 7 hours a day for like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It was not meant to be played like that. I mean, I know people play it like that. It just wasn't meant to be played like that. And I feel like streaming in itself is really different from content creating.
Rise.
I realize that doesn't really make
given. Orders received. Inadmissible evidence.
I don't press buttons. Buttons are hard. I think streaming is like its own thing. You know? Making content is one thing, but streaming is like a whole different beast altogether.
Think you can bully me?
Streamers who are complaining about there being nothing to do in the game are completely valid, in my opinion. And the reason is that this game is not really a good streaming game, as you can kind of see. It's very repetitive as a result, and that's why people have a really hard time with it. But like creating content for this game is actually really easy, in my opinion. But I also know that I have a very different niche compared to most. Most are very combat focused, meme focused, build focused, guide focused, that kind of stuff. I have so much resistance. Hey, come back here. She still does so little. Are you serious?
Back off!
Can't handle your drink. Go.
I hate these guys.
Time for your arraignment.
I don't care even if I have Hydro characters, I still hate them. I hate them very much. If you're wondering why I'm using Chi-Chi and Diona at the same time, Diona's for the cryo application and Chi-Chi's for the Millilith buff. I'm using them for two very different things. And I've completely lost my train of thought again. Oh my god, stop. Yanfei. Her auto-targeting at close range is really bad. She is the ultimate ranged mage, and that's where she shines. Close combat, not so much. I was gonna say something. Okay. I'm in a very different niche than, like, most everyone else who makes content for Genshin. So, like, my level of burnout is very different than other people's, I think. And it's because they think they have nothing to do. And honestly, like, as far as they're concerned, they're right. They don't really have anything to do because the kinds of things that they want to do, you know, they run out of really quickly because it's not really a game that's meant to be streamed for hours at a time. And, you know... You know, not everyone likes every game mode, so, like, someone who makes guides might not make guides for Theater Mechanicus, they might just make guides, like, build guides, right? Or someone who makes guides for stuff like Theater Mechanicus, or for wind trace tips and tricks and that kind of stuff, might not be very good at building guides and stuff like that. So, like, it's difficult to get that kind of consistency. I'm personally not burning out on Genshin, but again, like, my level of enjoyment of it comes from a different place. Like, I don't believe that I have to be actually physically playing the game in order to be enjoying it. A lot of the time I spend on Genshin is actually spent, like, talking on Discord, or, like, researching things, or reading books, or, you know, like, realizing, oh, hey, you know what? I just realized that the Triquetra actually looks like it has an additional influence that I never noticed before. Let me go read about, you know, Celtic mythology and the history of Celtic knotwork and why this is like a foundational knot and that kind of stuff. Like, there's a very different level of engagement that I have that I don't feel like many other people will have, and I think that's also okay. But like, the chances I'll burn out are pretty small. as a result of that, because this is the kind of thing that's really exciting to me. And I think Genshin is a really good game for this type of content. But this type of content isn't easy to do. Like, it doesn't have a low barrier to entry. You have to, like, not only know a lot of really random stuff, but you have to be, you know, decent at editing videos, because it's not just going to be you taking, you know, one recording
Admissible evidence.
and calling it a day, like a lot of people do.
To ashes.
There's nothing wrong with that either. It's just, you know, the level of difficulty is different. And they also take more time to produce overall. So you're like, you're making less content, so you have to make sure that each piece counts. And also, you know, as a theorist and a lore enthusiast, it's hard for me to stream often, because like every hour that I'm streaming is, you know, an hour I'm not researching something to make new content, you know. So I think the people who are burned out are burned out rightly so, and I honestly think that taking a break is a really fantastic thing to do. I feel like people should. I feel like people taking breaks, I don't want to say like they get demonized, but like the concept of taking breaks is pretty demonized. Like, you get looked down on if you're like, oh man, I took a break from Genshin because I was bored. Like, I feel like it's okay if people take those breaks in between updates. Like, why play the second half of an update if you're out of stuff to do? You don't have to, unless you really want the primos, and if you want the primos, play for like 10 minutes, grab the primos and bounce. Like, no biggie. Like, do you know how many primos we're actually gonna get from just the chests? It's like 560. Honestly. Like, you could seriously invest $5 to not play for the second half and get like a ridiculous amount more gems, if you really want to. Like, the 560 isn't gonna make or break you. I think it's 560. It's something like that. It's not a very high number. It's like 4 or 5 pulls.
Ooh, we can definitely
Anyway. Oh, they're not dead. Okay. Well, they will be soon. Oh, he's not dead. I thought he was dead. Guess not. I want these things. I'm gonna need them. I say I'm gonna need them, and then I realize that I end up with, like... I have it ingrained in my head now that treasure hoarder medals are, like, super important. You know, like, 1,500 of them. Because basically all of my favorite characters use treasure hoarder medals to level. And so now I'm like, treasure hoarder is my stockpile. And then, yeah, it's kind of, like, ingrained in my system. I swear to God, if Toma uses treasure hoarder medals... It'll be like my 5th or 6th character that's like a primary favorite that uses them, and that's... Yeah, it's weird that it's happened like 5 times.
motion to compel.
Random. Anywho. Trying LOL. The problem is that the game generates a lot of FOMO with resin commissions and limited events. Objectively, it's no big deal, but it feels bad. Yes, this is such a big thing with gacha gaming and mobile gaming in general, though, is that they really do prey on that instinct of fear of missing out, right? And that's something that's not easy to kick as, like, a habit, but it's something that I feel like people really need to be aware of and really try to kick, because it's such an important skill to have, to be able to say, no, I'm not going to play today. Or, you know what, I'm only going to play, you know, for like 15 minutes tonight, and I'm not going to play this morning, and I don't care if my resin caps or whatever. Like, it's hard to say that the first couple of times, but after you do it, it becomes a lot easier. And I feel like it needs to be like a muscle. Like, you have to exercise it. You have to keep trying it. And recognize, like, I keep saying this, and I know people are sick of hearing it, but it is a game. There are things that matter more. That you should be doing instead. Like, I took some serious break from this game for a couple of weeks to play Tales of Arise, right? And it was great. I didn't care that the first day I cared that my resin capped. I was like, no, I lost resin. And then after that I was like, whatever, resin, who cares? I'm not farming for anything anyway. You know, like my kits are pretty solid. Like I don't need any talent books. Nothing's coming out for a while. I'm good. It's fine. I'll just log in, grab my primos, and go. Once a day. It's fine. Make some condensed resin and then realize, oh shit, like I have 5 condensed resin and I don't really want to play, but now I have like 160 resin plus my condensed resin. I guess I'll just do a boss because it takes 60 and that doesn't take long. You know, like things like that, right? Like learning that it's okay to not optimize, learning that it's okay to let your resin cap, learning that it's okay to do those things. Like it's fine. It's not gonna hurt you in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
It's really not. Like, okay, so this is also, someone's gonna call me pay to win here, but I'm not free to play, but I'm not a whale either. I am a BP Welkin, and the reason I'm a BP Welkin isn't because it's not for any real fancy reason. It's just that I judge the amount I spend on a game by how many hours of enjoyment I get per dollar. Right? So if I buy a $60 game and I'm putting in 40 hours into it, right? I'm looking at, you know, a ratio of, I don't know, like a $1.50 an hour. Let's just say I'm paying $1.50 for an hour of entertainment, which is actually really good value when you consider you go to the movies. And it's like $15 for an hour and a half. It's like, that's a pretty high ratio, right? What? Whoa! What the hell? What is this? Why are you here? Go away! No! What the? Have I just never done that? Are you serious? I've just never lit the... Okay, you know what? I hate those fucking things, and one day I'm going to do a theory on them because they're ridiculous. They're not even in the friggin' archive. Like, look at this. They're not even in the archive. This is the most ridiculous thing. I hate them so much. Like, not because they're hard to fight, but because they're not in here. They are not in here. Look, they're not in here. They're not. Why? Anyway.
The case before us.
Like I was saying. Like I was saying before I got completely sidetracked. Yeah, so like, I look at it like dollar per hour of enjoyment, right? So because I get so many hours of enjoyment from Genshin per week, even if I'm not playing, just because I'm talking to other people play it or I'm enjoying other content creators play it, like I consider, you know, like 15 bucks every, let's say well, it's more like $9 a month when you average it out, because the battle pass isn't for like a month, it's for like 6 weeks really. You get one per patch. So it ends up being like $9.50 a month or something like that. I think that's perfectly reasonable because I definitely play for more than 9 hours a month, and $1 an hour for an entertainment is like totally worth it for me. I'll pay way more for like a friggin' coffee and a bagel somewhere, right? Like that's totally reasonable. And not a lot of people will hold that same idea, but for me, like if I miss out on primos, like I don't really care, because if I do the math objectively, I know that I could spend $5. I could get the amount of primos that I missed if I really actually missed them. And I would be able to justify it because the game's actually bringing me enough hours of enjoyment per dollar for me to not feel bad about it. And that's kind of how I think about spending money on games, and not just gacha games in general. But whaling is like a whole other thing entirely, because that's like a very different mindset about gambling. I'm an avid saver. I have these are saved BP Welkin gems right now. I have 52,000, and I've been saving since Kazuha because nothing really has appealed to me. And that's, again, like it's like working a muscle. I have been here like so many times, and I'm just walking around in circles. That's okay. It's fine. I don't care. I don't remember where I was going with that. But yeah, that's kind of how I think about things. All games. I actually have a monthly game budget too. So, for example, on the topic of whaling, right? Because I have dolphined a couple of times, and by dolphin, I mean I'm probably more like a goldfish level, but that's all semantics at some point. Hey, look, I found one.
Huh. Where have you been hiding?
Hang on, I want to see what percentage I'm at, because I might be able to just, like, go talk to the woman and... I should probably find, like, 2 more before I talk to the lady. So I think she'll... Well, actually, she might do about 15%. Let's see. If I have to wait till tomorrow, it's okay. Let's just go talk to her. I have a monthly game budget where I say, like, okay, I have this amount that I will actually... This is in leeway. Why am I going to Inazuma? I'm, like, trained at this point. I figure that if there's a new game that comes out, I just want to know that, like, I have money set aside for it. So it's not that I have to save money for it. It's just that I have money set aside that if a game comes up that I want to play, or, you know, in a gacha game that I play a lot, like my primary gacha game, if a character I wanted to get, like, say Scaramouche came out and I only had, like, 16,000 primos, and it's like, that's not enough to guarantee. I might be like, okay, listen, I'm not buying a game this month. I have $50 set aside. I'm going to spend $50 and buy the gems for him, right? Like, that's something I would do. And I don't really consider that whaling. And I still consider that, like, a completely reasonable purchase because you consider that as part of your monthly entertainment budget. Yeah. I feel like I probably passed all of these, like, a dozen times. Garrison Allen, I think that'll, because a lot of the people who play are children with little to no money or income, they get super FOMO'd by events. Yeah, there is that, but, like, also, younger people have more time to play, right? So here's another thing. We vote with our money, right? And most people look at that and be like, oh, well, I'm free to play. And so, like, I'm not spending any money in the game, so MiHoYo should listen to me because I'm voting with my dollar. It's like, it's not quite right. What it means is that someone who's spent a good chunk of money on the game technically has a little bit more pull with, you know, like, customer service when it comes to having your voice heard when you give feedback. Because your opinion is technically considered more objectively valuable than someone who's completely free to play. Because to MiHoYo, the free-to-play doesn't really bring them any value. And I know that kind of goes against what I said earlier with, like, the MMO mentality. But, I have to go down again. Why am I... Like, what? Like, my brain's only half functional right now. Don't judge me. Is there seriously one in here that I've just... Yep, there is one in here. I just wasn't looking hard enough. I bet you all saw that and were just like, oh my god, go look at the thing. And I didn't do the thing. I just saw, like, this perfect picture of Albedo that had this, like, in his chest, and it was the coolest friggin' picture. I love it so much. Anyway, I would have that on my wall. It was art. I would have that as a sculpted bust. So cool. Anyway, sometimes good art is just really good art. I don't want to fight you, dude. Go away.
Another problem.
You're a problem. I didn't even know he said that. Oh, hey, look, there's one in the tree. I've lost my train of thought again. Yeah, okay, so on the topic of young kids, the whole thing with kids playing too is a huge issue because, like, in China, if you're not aware, kids are now only allowed to play for 3 hours a week. And that's not, like, because of their parents, that's because of the government. The government has told them that they are federally regulating that kids are only permitted to play games, all games, for 3 hours total per week. That's it. 1 hour on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No. 1 hour on Friday and then 2 on Saturday, or 1 on Saturday? Something like that. Anyway, it's a little ridiculous, like, the amount that they're going through. And, like, the extent they're going through for this, they're implementing, like, facial recognition. So when you're playing on your device, there's a camera watching you, and if it notices that your face is in front of this screen for more than an hour on this particular day, it will just shut off. And that's for children. It's not for adults. Like, adults can play however much they want to, even though, you know, the CCP doesn't really want them to. But like, that's a really big deal. And that's really going to change how MiHoYo approaches the game because their primary demographic is in China, right? So we think about Western kids who
Where have you
have a
been
lot of
hiding?
time to play games, and maybe they're only playing Genshin because it's like months between releases of the games that they want to play. Like maybe they're like me and they want to play like a Paper Mario and then friggin' Shin Megami Tensei. And Paper Mario decides to be super disappointing, so you play Bug Fables, and then friggin' Shin Megami Tensei comes out like 9 months later. That's a long time to not have anything new to play, right? Personal gripe, personal gripe, personal gripe. It's fine. It's fine. I walked past this like 6 times, didn't I?
Huh. Where have you been hiding?
Yeah, no kidding. Where has it been hiding? It's in plain sight, you know, that's the best place to hide. So keep that in mind. Like, that's something to watch. I don't think it's a cause for concern necessarily for the Western audience, just because it doesn't really apply to us, but just note that they may be, what's to say? Like, that might be what actually gets some changes to the resin system that I was mentioning
The
earlier.
more the merrier.
You know, like where they
The first
they'll
round's
make
on
you
me.
able to farm more. In terms of like, they might increase like the amount of resin that you can hold at any given time, and increase the amount of condensed so that they can accommodate for kids. In that way.
Yet.
But the opposite might also be true.
Your drink.
Eyes on me.
They might actually decide that kids aren't a demographic that they want to target anymore, and they might actually try to increase the rating of the game so that kids can't play it. That is also a possibility. I think it's unlikely, but it's a possibility.
The
Keep
more
that in
the
mind.
merrier. First
Keep
round's
that
on
in
me.
mind. Well, yeah, the CCP does hate every game. That is true, but they also recognize that game companies like Tencent have a lot of pull and a lot of power, and they do respect that. I say respect in a very loose way. But MiHoYo in particular goes against basically every sort of value that the CCP has, you know. So in particular, MiHoYo is kind of on their shit list. Worth noting. Anyway, it's just stuff to keep in mind. I'm sure they'll figure out how to deal and all that, but yeah. Oh, look, hey, we did it! Woohoo! You know what that means? You know what that means? You know what that means? You know what it means? You know what it means? It means we get to feed the fish. We get to feed the fish. Who do I have the fish on? Oh, right, Xinyan. This is actually like a really cool weapon for her. If you guys like Xinyan and you want to make her useful, this is a really cool weapon for her. But didn't Genshin get like shit tons of revenue? Isn't that good for their GDP? Yes, but China isn't the US, okay? Like, China doesn't look at the amount of money you bring in and then give you a value for it. They don't say like, hey, you're valuable to us because you bring in this percentage of our GDP. They look at us and they look at it and say, you're valuable to us because you bring in money and you are promoting our agenda. Right? Like, the US almost doesn't care enough about the missions of companies, whereas China cares way too much, in my opinion. Again, my opinion. Anyway. Yeah. Ranadella's make her useful like she's not already useful. Listen, Xinyan is like the third most useless character in the whole thing. She really is. It's Lisa, Amber, and Xinyan. Plus, she's bugged right now, so she still doesn't even work, right? You know? Am I gonna see 6 Scaramouche? No, probably not. I might like C1 him, depending on how good it is. The thing is like, I really want to C1 Xiao. And I think Ito will be a character that I really like when he comes out. Just from like what I've read from running around Inazuma. I think he'll be cool. Huh? Yeah, Selma might replace her, sort of. I mean, she's still at least a little bit different because Xinyan is physical damage, and Toma looks like he's going to be more pyro application based, with damage reduction and some stacking and all sorts of mechanics like that, whereas Xinyan's kind of a little bit different in that way. The thing is with Xinyan is that she's kind of like constellation gated, you know, like you kind of have to have her C2 and her C6, I think, in order for her to be like really good. C2 is where she becomes useful. C6 is where she becomes good, and I mean like just good. And between Xinyan, Amber, and Lisa, Xinyan and Amber are like competing for the second worst spot in the game, and Lisa is definitely the worst character in Genshin Impact in terms of like strength. It's just she just has too many problems. Like she's got kind of low multipliers. She's got a kit where she's really static most of the time. She has an element that just sucks in terms of overall damage output unless you have ridiculously high multipliers. Her constellations aren't very good. Like, she just has every problem, and it sucks, especially for people who really, really, really enjoy Lisa. And yes, Lisa is worse than Amber.
It's been getting quite busy recently.
There's a strange wanderer near Wolf.
I don't think anyone talks about it though, because
I'm
like
always ready.
I don't think anyone talks about Lisa being worse than Amber because Lisa's kind of waifu, and I also think that a lot of people like Amber, and get really mad that she's not good because they like Amber. Whereas I think less people like Lisa, and therefore less get mad. And especially because like most people don't mind Archer playstyles, but like catalysts are really contentious in this game. Like you either love catalysts or you hate them. You either use them or you don't. Archers, like people will use them, kind of like they would use anything else. So it's kind of weird. Kokomi is not a bad unit. All right, I actually did want to talk about this. This will probably be like my last thing. I'm only gonna really, I think, go for like another 20-25 minutes or something like that, and I'm gonna head out. But I actually did want to talk about Kokomi, mostly because like we've got these cool new enemies that are coming, the Rift Hounds. And if you're not aware, we've known about Rift Hounds, not by that name, but just like in the game universe, since the game launched, because they are the same wolves that attacked Wolvendom back when you do Razor's Quest, like all that time ago, you know? So, yep, that's a thing. Alright, but Kokomi's actually good. It's just that I don't think people think of her or use her in the way that would make her useful. And I also think a lot of people who are talking about her not being good are coming from a completely endgame standpoint, right? Kokomi is 100% designed not for a meta player. She is designed to make things comfortable for people who are not good at playing the game. And that's not an insult to people. It's just that, like, if you just want to play the game and chill and not think too hard and, like, not hardcore farm for artifacts and not have to worry about, you know, perfect dodging and shields and all these other meta sort of mechanics that a lot of people really enjoy talking about, then Kokomi is a really, really good character for you. And yeah, that's a niche, but it's actually a pretty important niche. She's really good for people who want to play comfy. She is. I don't think you should ever C6 Kokomi or even ever go for her special weapon. Though, I think that's just kind of overkill. She's just as good with her friggin' prototype Malice or Amber or whatever it is right now, as she is with her everlasting Moonglow. for the most part.
Gather.
But like, she's just made for a demographic that is not catered to by content creators or people who even touch the
Solidify.
abyss. Okay, so she doesn't really have a place there. And most people will judge a character based on that. They'll look at a healer and be like, okay, well, what's their damage output? Because we have people like Jean and Chi-Chi who scale off of attack and, you know, can be made into some really excellent damage dealers as well as healers, and they become sort of multi-purpose. And then other people will complain, oh, well, you know, we don't actually have any content in the game that requires healing. And it's like, well, you don't? Sure. I mean, you've got a Zhongli, you've got a Diona, you've got like all of these. You know how to dodge, you're good at timing, you've got good ping, like you have all these things going for you. And you have to recognize that that's not the story for everybody. And Kokomi is a character that's aimed particularly at those people. And those people aren't typically the ones with a lot of money. They're not the ones who are, you know, interested in guide making or the abyss or anything like that. And I think it's cool that MiHoYo's actually made a character like that. I do. What I'm less cool with is that they really did her dirty on her story, because I feel like she could have done better in sales if they had properly explained her story. Like, I'm still upset that what I have produced this week is a theory video. And not just me telling you what Kokomi's story is. I'm still kind of mad about that. And it should not be like that. Because none of the stuff that I said is like, should be secret. Should be like a surprise. It should, like, none of that should be the thing. Like, that should not be something that I have to write theory videos on, you know? Like, I wanted to do a character analysis video, but I couldn't because MiHoYo didn't even give me enough material to work with to give her a proper analysis outside of, like, just looking at her clothing. And, like, sure, okay, that's fine, but that's so boring, right? Like, I can't believe I have to, like, go digging for all of that stuff so deeply, because no one else will, especially a casual player who she's totally geared for. So that's actually what pisses me off more. I actually think she's fine. I really do. Like, she makes for such comfy play. She has really good hydro application, which can make for some pretty nutty things. No, she's not the best ever, but I do find her much better than Barbara, and most people are just like, oh, why would you ever want a 5-star Barbara? And it's like, well, I mean, she's pretty. That's kind of what it boils down to. But, like, that's kind of what it boils down to in a lot of things. Like, do you think people would have pulled for Eula if she wasn't, like, hot and dancery? Do you really? Like, can you actually look me in the eye and say that convincingly? Because I don't think so. No one would play Eula, except for except for people who really, 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 really wanted to do meta damage, unless she was looking the way she is.
Stabilize.
That might be a hot take, but that's my opinion. Kokomi's good at her job. It's not her fault that other people don't need her in the job.
Gather.
Personally, I think someone in her position should have been released much earlier into the game. But I don't think it's bad that she's being released now anyway. I wouldn't write her off. She introduced a couple of interesting things into the game alongside A. For example, she introduced the additional passive, because she has another passive. She has one more passive than I think every other character in the game besides A. And yeah, it's a negative passive, but, like, consider we can't even level 100 our characters yet. And someone pointed out to me the other day that, like, skills and talents are supposed to go to level 15, and we can only do 13 at maximum right now. So to look at Kokomi and say, like, oh, she's terrible, oh, she's bad, it's like, no, she's just not what you need. Other people need her. But yeah, that's that. But people also say that, like, oh, well, they invented Kokomi so that, like, you know, people could pull for her for the corrosion mechanic. It's like, no, they didn't do that. They didn't create a problem and then try to sell you the solution. They didn't. They just said, here's a new problem, here's another solution to the problem, because there's obviously other solutions in game. You don't have to pull for her. Like, she's not necessary, you know? She's not perfect for that role. And they always tailor Floor 11 to the latest character that comes out. Always. So, like, none of that's new. None of that is new. I like Corrosion.
Gather.
Because I think it's really good to have multiple solutions to... Sorry,
This
I
is
lost my
order.
train of thought. I think it's really good to have a game where not one character is a solution to every problem. I think that's a really good thing. I mean, Chi-Chi counters Corrosion. Xingqiu technically can counter Corrosion very slowly. Barbara can counter Corrosion. Jean can counter Corrosion. Jean's actually probably the best counter to Corrosion, honestly. Diona can counter it. Like, everyone who can heal can counter it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And the Rift Hounds, in particular, it's not even like when you kill them, you know, they inflict corrosion on you. It's when they hit you. So if you're even just good at dodging, you don't need any special character. You don't need a special healer. You don't need shields. You don't need anything. You just have to learn the timing. And so I think that's good. It keeps people on their toes. But they still have to, like, balance these,
Boring.
They still have to balance these. I missed both crits. Are you serious? Hi. 70% crit rate, misses the crit twice. Such is my life. Yeah. So that's my take on Kokomi. I actually like the corrosion mechanics. I think it's good. I know I've said that like 4 times now, but I do think it's good. It's a change in the game that I am actually okay with and happy to see.
Solidify.
Give me stuff. I don't want to fight you. See, like, if I just want to collect things, Zhongli is great for that. If I want to fight things, then, you know, someone else is good for that. But yeah, I feel like the corrosion mechanic wasn't just like, here's Kokomi. It's also like, here's a side grade buff to Chi-Chi, sort of. Because I've seen a lot of people say that you know, there's no real reason to carry like a dedicated healer, like someone who just heals us so much. And they're right. Like, the game content isn't so hard that unless you're really bad at it or you just don't care enough to like really optimize your stuff and get good things and you know, go for good weapons and artifacts and stuff. Like, if you're one of those people, then you know, it's not true. Like, you can definitely have a good case for running a dedicated healer, but for everyone else, there really isn't content for it. So I feel like having world level 8 or whatever and corrosion could make for some really interesting things and justify some full healers. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It makes me sad when people aren't happy about Chi-Chi. I love my Chi-Chi. She's so good. Y'all are sleeping on Millilith Sacrificial Sword Chi-Chi. Just saying. She's good. She's one of the few people who can use the Millilith set. I do think they'll buff older characters. That is definitely going to be something that happens. But I think they'll be, like, not buffs as in, like, hey, here's a patch note. We're increasing the multipliers for Ningguang's, you know, like, first and charge attack. I think it'll be more like an actual something happens in the story. Now you can summon an additional power for a character that you have. I think that will be a thing. One thing I really like about Genshin is pulling additional copies of a character doesn't just give you straight more damage. I mean, sometimes it does, but it's not like it just increases your stats, you know? Other gacha games I've played, it's just like a flat stat increase when you get additional characters. Or additional copies, sorry. With Genshin, like, they actually change the way the character plays. At least a little bit, right? Like, suddenly, for C1 Hu Tao, for example, now charge attacks are her thing. Where am I going? I was going somewhere. And now I don't remember where. Oh, I'll go over here. That kind of things. You know? I think every character in the game will get a delusion. And if they already use a delusion, I think they'll get a second delusion. I mean, Child already set us up for this, and I'm almost wondering if the reason why he has a third rerun, or a third banner right now, I shouldn't say third rerun, that's not accurate. I'm almost wondering if the reason he has a third banner right now is because they're going to introduce his concept of having a dual element again. Because for year 2, that would be a really cool thing to try and introduce. I don't know that they will actually introduce it so far, but I think they'll tease it for us. Like, I know he's part of, like, this little sub-event, but listen, we've had sub-events before that end up actually being really important. Does anyone remember Unreconciled Stars? Like, this thing that I reference all the friggin' time, but no one's ever played? Like, that's one of the most important, like, scenes in the game, and it's limited to an event that only ran once, like, forever ago, for a couple of weeks, and, like, not many people have actually played it. But anyway, I digress. There's lots of good things coming. I know I spent like most of this video kind of like, most of this stream kind of like rambling and kind of ranting about some stuff, but like, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think these are all good things. It's just like, I want people to have really realistic expectations for things that are to come, and to recognize that like, you're not always going to get the things you want, and that's okay, but like also, getting mad about things is valid, but like letting it bleed over into like your day-to-day life is not healthy. And that giving constructive criticism is really good, but we also have to answer like the why when we give it. We can't just say, say, you know, fix this. We have to like actually give suggestions. I actually got most of my jobs in life, in the space that I'm in, because I work for a marketing agency, but I'm a web developer. But most of the jobs I've gotten, I actually got because I would write really weird emails to the owners of the company, and it would say like, your website sucks because of X, Y, and Z. Like, this part is terrible. Look at the failure of UI that you have over here. And then I would give them 3 solutions to it in the email, like completely unsolicited. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't, you know, like... Oh, I don't want to fight these. Do I have to? I just want this. Okay, I'm running away now, bye. I don't know where I've been. I haven't been paying attention. So I would actually do that, and I would always get calls. Like, I think I had like an 80% callback rate when I did that. And the actual owner or the CEO of the company, depending on what I was doing, would call me back, and I would get work from that. I would get a job. Even if it was just consulting for like 2 or 3 hours, they would pay me to tell them everything that was wrong with their stuff and how to fix it. And there's nothing more valuable to the person who owns a company than not only being told to fix something because something's broken, but like how you think it should be fixed. So keep that in mind when you do your feedback surveys, because those are really great things that the data analytics people can actually bring back to
Order guide you.
you know, the dev teams and the executives, and say like, fix this. Here's how. Here's some suggestions. People are like brainstorming ideas for you to work with. They can actually give them like a task list, almost. Whether or not they'll actually do it is like completely, like a totally different topic altogether, but can I like... I hate crystal flies because they fly away so fast and you can't like even use Kazuha to like zoom up to them because it kills them. Bye. Bye, crystal flies. And they don't come back down either. They just fly away and then they poof. Watch, they're gonna poof. They're gonna poof. Are they seriously? Yep, there they go. They just poof. I hate them. I hate crystal flies. No, you can say that MiHoYo doesn't listen, Carlcast, but I'm going to argue that they haven't been listening, and I will definitely agree with that. But I think they've recognized that their current stance on things is not working for anyone. Which is kind of what I mean when I was talking about earlier when I was talking about them getting a new global PR manager. Like, that's a huge deal. That is a huge position. That is a really big deal. Someone lost their job over this anniversary. Like, we have to know that one person at least lost their job because we as a community were not happy with how things turned out. And I'm not talking about review bombing and everything. I'm just talking about, like, the feedback to MiHoYo, like, just in general. People were not happy. They let them know. MiHoYo knew. And they know that the concert went over really well. But they also know that their Endgame anniversary did not go well. And that will change. But what I want to leave you guys with is this. A tiny boat can pivot really, really fast. It can turn around on a dime. A giant tanker ship cannot. It takes a lot of people and a lot of effort and a lot of time to turn a gigantic boat around. MiHoYo is no longer a really tiny boat. They can't do things. They can't respond instantly to the feedback that, like they used to, like we gave on the Elemental Crucible. They can't do that kind of stuff. And then we also have to understand, like, their lead time is roughly 4 to 6 months. That's how far out they go. So what feedback we give them now, some of it could be implemented in a design sprint cycle as early as like 4 weeks from now. But other things are going to take months before you start seeing them. And it's not because they're not listening. It's because that's just how long those sorts of things take because of the size of the company now. Them being huge is both a good and a bad thing. Like, we're going to get some really high production quality stuff, but we have to recognize that it's going to come at the cost of time. So I don't think they're done making Sumeru, but they're a lot farther along than we think they are. And there's not going to be any Raiden changes, and I'll tell you why. They didn't articulate this well in the translation, and I don't know if it's actually articulated well in the Chinese original language either, but Xingqiu's burst basically says it works when you normal attack. But Beto's burst apparently only triggers when you deal normal attack damage, and it's such a subtle difference. So for example, unless Beto actually hits with a normal attack damage, then her burst won't apply, right? Whereas Xingqiu, so long as you're swinging your sword, you can hit anybody from anyone, from any location. It doesn't have to hit the enemy, but his swords will just auto target and release. So because Raiden's burst actually counts as burst damage and not normal attack damage, which is the distinction that they were making for Beto's burst, they will not work together. That's how that works. It's not even on hit. It's not on hit because it has to be normal attack damage, like straight up normal attack damage. Because technically, if you just have to hit, then Beto's burst should proc. But they're actually making the distinction between burst damage hitting and normal attack damage being inflicted. Not that you're actually hitting them with your normal attack, because she's technically making a normal attack when she deals burst damage. It's like, it's such a gray area, and the way that it's worded, it's kind of sleazy, because unless you really are able to make that very fine distinction, it just feels like you're being scammed. Yeah, Beto procs on shields. You don't have to like actually like take any HP off, but you have to hit them with normal attack damage, even if that damage is 0. But yeah, the communication is bad because expectations versus reality, right? That's actually what happened with Zhongli. Like, they gave us a trailer that made him seem like he was gonna be one way, and then when people got him, they're like, hey, wait a minute, he doesn't play like that at all. And it seems like fraud, and it's like really just a miscommunication. But like, you do have to, as a company, you have to balance customer expectations versus your messaging. And I think that's going to be MiHoYo's ongoing challenge. It was their challenge with Zhongli, it's their challenge with Raiden and Beto, and it's their challenge with the anniversary and the fallout from that. They did not come out of this looking very good. Even though the English community with the review bombing came out looking awful. Overall, MiHoYo didn't come out looking worse, but they also didn't come out looking better either. So, you know. Yeah. Lar says Ball and Beta were working before during her beta test. They just purposely changed it. That's actually proprietary information. You're not supposed to know that. Whether or not it worked in the beta isn't supposed to be your business. That's technically leaked content. It's not even technically, it is leaked content. Like, to know that that happened in a beta, and if you were not a beta tester, you were violating an NDA. Well, if you were a beta tester, you were violating an NDA. If you are not a beta tester and you know that, you are following somebody who is violating an NDA. So keep that in mind. You should never use a beta test as your baseline for expectations of how a character will come out. All of that stuff is subject to change. Friggin' Ganyu got, apparently, from what I've heard, because I didn't pay attention at all to Ganyu because I was so not interested, because I don't use any bows ever at all if I can avoid it. I don't like bows. Which is why I have an R2 Amos bow. Go figure that one out. Desire Radar hit me pretty hard. But from what I've heard, Ganyu, for example, had very normal charge attack multipliers. And then the last second, like a couple days before her release, they like doubled them. Which means she was going to be Amber-like. And then for one reason or another, they like doubled her charge attack multipliers, and now she's ridiculous. Again, this is all about expectations. Expectations on anniversary rewards and expectations on character releases. Like, nothing is final until it is in the final product. And even then, we've proven that Zhongli can get a buff. Like, you can get stuff changed. It's possible. It's just, you have to make a really good case for it. So the case that they made with Zhongli was basically like, he's supposed to be the shield Archon. Like, he's supposed to be shielding. And his shield isn't even stronger than Diona's. And he's an Archon. And, like, when you start looking at it in terms of that, it's like, okay, well, maybe that is a problem. Like, Diona's a 4-star. And she's not an Archon. And she's cryo, so technically she has more applications overall because she can do things like inflict freeze. Whereas Geo, as it was initially before the buff, because it wasn't just a buff to Zhongli, it was a buff to Geo in general. Geo was just an incredibly weak element. Incredibly weak. It's still kind of weak, but Geo Resonance is pretty strong. So it's kind of like... No, listen. Ball, Beto... When they made the choice to make A do burst damage, they made the choice to have her not interact with a couple other characters. But they also gave you the ability to use things like Noblesse and Emblem of Severed Fate and the Catch, because all of those things deal with burst damage, right? So you have to kind of decide which would you rather have. Would you rather have A be dealing like electro-infused normal attacks like Xiao? And then not be able to use things like Emblem of Severed Fate? Because I would sure as hell love to use Emblem of Severed Fate on my Xiao. I really, really would. That would be amazing. But I can't. Because it's not burst damage. It's just animal conversion. So... yeah. Anyway, just like be really clear on what a character does and all that kind of stuff. Do their test runs before you pull them. That kind of thing. Like just temper your expectations. You're gonna be disappointed sometimes. You're gonna be blown away sometimes. You know, people thought Bennett sucked in the very beginning of the game. It took like 3 months before people were just like, holy shit, Bennett's broken. You know? People thought he was awful. They thought he was horrible. And by the way, C6 Bennett is good. I don't care what anyone says. C6 Bennett is good. If you have a Bennett, C6 him, because he only really hurts like 3 characters if you C6 him. So unless you're like a Eula main that's running Bennett, which why are you running Bennett on a Eula team? Like C6 your Bennett. There's no reason not to at this point. When do you think we'll let me... Okay, so signatures and nicknames. I'm not sure if that's an anniversary thing or not. I've heard conflicting reports, but I think there's supposedly something going on in China that after it passes, they'll let us change signatures again. But I'm not entirely clear on what it is. I've basically never changed my nickname or anything, so I just haven't paid much attention to it. Anyway, I think that's all I had to talk about. I'm actually pretty happy with the game as a whole, honestly. I know like a lot of people aren't, and we've talked about like how MiHoYo is spreading themselves really thin in terms of like how they appeal to people. But like, feel free to take breaks, guys. Feel free to like let your resin cap. Like, you don't have to play for hours at a time. This is a single player game. You know, like, you don't have to do 100,000 damage every 10 seconds. It's not necessary. It's okay if you can only, like, get 12 stars in the Abyss. It's fine. No one cares. There's no leaderboard. There's no PvP. There's no, like... It's, like I said, like, it's not that many gems that you're missing out on. It's really not. If you can even just clear up to floor 12, you're doing really good. Even if you get no stars. You'll still get... like a 5-star artifact and some Mora and some Primo gems, even if you just clear it. Like, it's okay if it takes you 7 minutes, no one cares. I don't even know what the limit is. Is it 7 minutes? Oh, it's 9 minutes, right? Yeah, it's 9 minutes. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. It's a game. Have fun with it. I just want people to have fun, man. I just want happy people having fun, enjoying a game together, talking about the things that excite them, pointing out problems, but also suggesting solutions, which is like a huge thing. And I just want people to have fun and enjoy this game as much as I am. Even though I do think that some of the writing is bad. Like, that's okay. That's totally okay if some of the writing is bad. It's okay if the game doesn't jive with you. It's okay if you binge content. It's okay if you say you have nothing to do and you feel like you should have something to do. Like, that's literally an individual problem. It's not a problem that MiHoYo is ever going to be able to solve for you. They can give you endless content in a new area every single day, and people would still not be happy. And I honestly get really grateful when we have a filler patch every now and again, because I need time to catch up, man. Because, like... like, sometimes I'm pulling, like, 9, 12-hour days, like, at my normal job, right? And to then, like, play Genshin after that. if there was events all the time and new areas all the time. I would fall so far behind so fast. Like, it would be crazy. Like, you need a filler patch every now and again. Just take a break during a filler patch. It's okay. If you needed someone to tell you it's okay, I'll tell you it's okay. Oh, you know what? I did want to talk about a potential roadmap for the next 12 months. Yeah, okay. It's actually on my list, because I guess you checked the, you probably checked the channel, or the video description, huh? I wrote everything down there because I had foresight, and then I forgot about it because I'm an idiot. That's okay. That's okay. If people were perfect, they'd be perfectly boring. What was I gonna do? Okay, roadmap. Here's my predictions for a roadmap, alright? People are saying the game's gonna last 10 years. I'm gonna give it a lifespan of 5 years, okay? 5 years for basically what is the entirety of the Travail trailer. Everything in the Travail trailer will be out at the end of 5 years. Not from now. Like, 4 and, like, a quarter years from, like, today. That's my prediction, okay? Now, the reason I say that is because I think, given their size currently, and a couple of news articles that I have seen where they were interviewing devs on the subject, they're talking about releasing a region, like a full country. Oh my god, come back here. Fine. They're talking about releasing a full region like that every year. So, 2022, we should get Sumeru. If I'm going to estimate when we'll get Sumeru, I'm going to say approximately 8 months from now. 8 months from October, okay? I think we're getting Surumi Island, the next update. Well, I don't think. We know that. So that's 2.2. That's going to go into November. And then we're going to have filler festival content for December. And that's going to run into what I think will be another Archon quest. Okay? I think we'll have another Archon quest for January, like a Dainsleif style one, and or where we'll meet some new Fatui. Okay. Then for February, we're going to revisit the Lantern Rite. January, February, we'll revisit the Lantern Rite kind of thing, except new. Because that's technically their celebration of Chinese New Year. That's where I think we can actually see more anniversary-esque rewards, because I honestly think MiHoYo values Chinese New Year over their own 1-year anniversary. For those of you who don't know, I actually don't know how true this is. And I need to fact check myself. And if you know the answer to this, fact check me in the chat, okay? But from what I remember, it's pretty common in China to not celebrate your birthday, or that your age isn't increased on the day you were born. Everyone's age is increased by 1 on Chinese New Year. So it's entirely possible that MiHoYo considers the game 1 year old at Chinese New Year. That does not mean they consider it their anniversary, okay? That's not what I'm saying. It's just that, like, I feel like they may put more emphasis on Chinese New Year for similar reasons that I don't quite understand culturally, because I'm a filthy Westerner. And I could be totally wrong about that. So again, fact check me, please. Yeah. So we're up to Lantern Rite? Okay. I think immediately after Lantern Rite, we're getting the Chasm. And we'll possibly get some expansion packs between now and then. And by expansion packs, I just mean, like, you know, little DLC areas. I think we're going to get a space to the, like a Golden Apple Archipelago style space. In Mondstadt. I feel like that's going to be a thing. And then I think we're going to get the Chasm, like I said, in around March, so spring. That's when I think we'll get Chasm. And around Chasm time is when I think Xiao will rerun. I think that's when we'll see him next. Not even Lantern Rite, but like Chasm. But he could be like the second banner of Lantern Rite leading into Chasm. I think that makes sense. Or the first banner of the Chasm, one of the two. That's when I think his rerun will be here. And from the Chasm, which I think will actually be a fairly large area, we'll start having, like, the intro to Sumeru. And I think by summer into early fall is when we'll get Sumeru. Okay? that is my prediction going forward. I'm obviously not going to try and predict characters outside of Xiao because he's the only one that I have even like some level of confidence in predicting. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking so far. They are okay, so they are testing Dendro. The reason why I'm talking about Sumeru so confidently, and I'm gonna put a video out on Sumeru and Dendro. That is the next one that I want to work on. So barring any like immediate things that come up, I'm working on Dendro Sumeru theory speculation video soon. But they're testing Dendro, and I think this because I think corrosion is supposed to be reminiscent of Dendro. And this is me with my tinfoil hat on, but I'm highly suspicious of the Dendro element because it's the only element that's technically alive, right? Like, it's plants. It's not even like usually when you think of like an earth element or whatever, you think of dirt and maybe some vines and stuff, but like it's never really like alive. But Dendro itself is like the element of life. It's like growing plants. It's like flowers, it's trees, it's like everything. Like, you look in elemental sight, all of this grass is technically infused with Dendro right now. That's why it's all green. Which is crazy to me. Which is actually also funny because Kusanali is named the Little Lucky Grass King, even though they're calling him or her Lesser Lord Kusanali. It's technically Lucky Little Grass King, is how the name directly translates, and only the grass is lit up. And if you read the Viridescent Venerer set, it talks about how the trees and stuff stopped speaking when the Viridescent Venerer had this one experience that we're not really going to go into right now because it's not really all that important. But the point is that the trees aren't growing, right? So they can't really react. So they're not infused with Dendro, but the grass is. And the Archon being the youngest Archon and also being associated with grass, I think it's funny that the grass is actually infused with Dendro. Anywho, I think they're testing Dendro mechanics, and I think they're heavily tied to corrosion. And I think that the element of life, which is associated with grass and trees and plants, is also associated with the Abyss, because the Abyss I associate with the World Tree and the Irminsul trees, and so there's all sorts of these trees, right? And so I almost wonder if Dendro is technically an abyssal element, and if the plot's really going to pick up right around there. And I'm also wondering if corrosion, because it's on these monsters that were created by Gold, who calls the big cataclysm, and they have this corrosion style mechanic. And if you look at, oh, hang on, let me like really quick, let me find a Dendro slime, cause let me find a Dendro slime because I want to show you something. Where am I going? This way, right? Sorry, I got turned around. What I should say is I turned myself around. I'm going this way. Here we go. Off we go. Hang on. I think they're testing Dendro, and I think corrosion is part of it. I think they're going to do, like, a lot of damage over time, and a lot of different sorts of that kind of stuff with Dendro. And I'm hoping that Electro gets an amplifying reaction with Dendro, and I think it might. Because, like, if you hit trees with lightning, they really do. They explode. They, like, you know? Here it is. This is what I wanted. Okay, so I wanted to show you one thing. Hi. Can you, like, come out, please? Oh my god, really? There we go. Yeah, that's fine, I don't care. I just want you, like, above ground for a bit. Waiting. There he goes, okay. Nope, not that. He just summoned the little dudes. Okay, little dudes are fine, but that's not what I want you to do. Yep, okay. Lots of little dudes. I got it. That's fine.
Life goes on.
There it is. Okay, see this aura? Hey. Aw, man, if I hit him, does it go away? Oh, that sucks. Okay, I'm inflicted with Dendro, but I'm losing HP. You see that? Like, I'm taking damage over time. There's no burning that's happening. I'm just taking 231 damage over time, which is, like, nothing. But, like, in this field, I'm also being inflicted with Dendro. I'm still losing a ton of HP. Well, I say a ton. 231, like, per tick is not that much, but you kind of get the idea, right? That's very similar to corrosion. So I'm wondering if the Rift Hounds are technically, like, look, it's going through my Chi-Chi stuff, or it was, and then it wore off, but anyway. Yeah, so I'm wondering if the corrosion is technically them sort of dry running Dendro without actually introducing Dendro, because I think they're testing reactions right now. And I think it's going to be a weird element to work with. So, yeah. But I also, the reason I think Sumeru's going to be like...
Osmanthus what?
Shush. The reason I think Sumeru is not going to be out till like September would be my guess, is because they need to introduce enough Dendro characters, like to have at least 4. They're going to give us 1 for free because they have to. They're going to give us 1 for free of every element. Right now, that's just what they do. So they have to give us 1 for free. And the only one we know of right now is Baizu. It's not going to be him. He's not going to be our free one. So he has to come out. So he has to have at least 1 banner. Which means they need to have banners or at least 1 patch where they're going to introduce 2 more Dendro units that we've never seen before. And they need to do it around the time of the Chasm, but I also think the Chasm's going to have a Xiao rerun nearby. So, yeah. And then we're going to have to start getting Sumeru characters. So. That is a leak. Well, okay, actually, you know what? Yao Yao isn't a leak, is it? Because she was in some official art that was released, so she's not technically a leak. Her name is kind of a leak, but, like, it doesn't really tell you anything, so that's fine. But yeah, Yao Yao is probably going to be our free one, because she's the only other one that we know of. It's true, that's true. I'm going to head out here in a bit, but there's one, there's one question in here that I wanted to address because I feel like there's some misinformation going around. Octoprince says, with China's new law about male characters, do you think that's why the Dendro Archon's gender got changed? No. There's 2 misconceptions here. First off, Dendro Archon's gender did not get changed. In Chinese, no pronouns are ever used. Okay? I want to make that very clear. The maleness of the Dendro Archon in English was an assumption on the translation team. It's entirely possible that it is male and that it will get changed back to male, but someone has instructed them to make it female for now. And I think we just have to accept that it's going to be female. Now, the reason why I think it's really likely that the Dendro Archon is female regardless is because... This is like such a huge theory, so I'm just going to give you the highlights of it, okay? In Genshin's other game, Honkai Impact, and in Gun Girl Z, which is the one that kind of came before Honkai, that no one knows about because no one's ever played because it's old and not that good, and really confusing. There are these god class characters called Hershers, right? And every Archon is going to be based off of a Hersher. Now the problem is that there's really technically only 1 male Hersher in the whole game, and that's Welt Yang, and that happens to be this guy. Or at least, Zhongli is based off of Welt Yang, and I will fist fight anyone who says otherwise. I really will. And I know there's a lot of you who say otherwise, but he's definitely based off of Welt Yang, and I can prove it even if you don't believe me. It's fine. These are the same people who don't believe Kaya is Sue. It's okay. You don't have to believe me. I'll wait 5 years to prove you wrong. It's okay. It's okay. I'm patient. Me and my 52,000 Primo gems are patient. Anyway, I know everyone's going to say, well, Venti is male, but Venti is kind of gender ambiguous, right? And Wendy was never really like the super popular character anyway, technically. And there's this whole thing about Wendy and Honkai Impact itself that's kind of like she was artificial or whatnot, and it's hard to really go into. But anyway, that's part of the reason why Venti is kind of gender ambiguous, is because the person he's based off of was female, whereas Zhongli is based off of Welt Yang, who was male. Now, Raiden A, or, you know, the Shogun, is based off of Raiden Mei from Honkai, who was female, and the Hersher of Thunder, right? So I think what we're going to be seeing is just that all of the characters who were Hershers in Honkai are going to be making appearances as Archons in Genshin. And the problem is that Honkai Impact only really has female characters, okay? They're really, it's just about females, really. Well, Yang's like it for the dudes, okay? And because of that, we should just be expecting 5 additional Archons that are female. We should just be expecting 5 female Archons. That's just the way it's gonna be. Now, I would like to point out that, while Raiden A is technically not the original Archon, she also kind of is, because she was the Kagemusha and all that. It was complicated. But the other Archons should all be new. Meaning they shouldn't be the original ones, which means we do have potential to see 5 additional Archons, including Makoto, who died, right? Because we have this whole thing about like, well, they're not really dead, they're not really dead. Well, they might not be, it's true. They might not be dead. We might be able to like even just see their memories, you know, so we might have that, but it's worth mentioning. Oh my god, no, leave me alone. Who are you? Seriously. Leave me alone. You!
Give up.
Go away. Please go away. Please. Please go away. Okay, there it goes. Mine. Yeah, so, okay, but, like, the other thing I wanted to mention, and the reason why I don't think it's gonna really technically be an issue, is when it comes to the effeminate male restriction, okay? I want to be very clear that that is not something that applies to video games right now. It is not a piece of law that applies to video games. It is a piece of law that applies to television. Now, the CCP has issued a suggested list of things that they would like to not see in video games as well. And on that list is effeminate men. But they have given this list to the Chinese Gaming Association, of which basically every game company in China is a part of, MiHoYo included. Okay? However, those suggestions are exactly that. They are suggestions. They are not law, and they are not enforceable right now. So it's basically an opt-in. Okay? So for the time being, we do not have to worry about the effeminate men in Genshin being censored. Yet. That's not a thing. MiHoYo is not going to opt in to those suggestions because, like I said earlier, that would ruin their entire game because what's on that list isn't just effeminate men. It's a lot of other things. And basically, like, if you applied all of those changes to Genshin, you wouldn't be left with a game. There would be nothing left. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So there's no way MiHoYo's gonna do it. They're just, it's not in the ethos of that company. It's not in their best interest. So. What do you mean? We have Kiana. She's right here. Hi. Nyan Mimi, that's not entirely true. They still do have to go through some legislative procedure. The Chinese Communist Party is still a party. Yes, but and you also have to understand that what would happen if it did go into law? Okay, I want to point this out. I am no legal expert. I am no political expert. But the way I've understood it, as I read more and more about it, and I kind of research into it, because it is really fascinating to me, and I do have to deal with censorship laws for my current work anyway, so it kind of works out. But anyway, the way I understand it is that if you want to do business in China, you have to comply with those regulations. However, MiHoYo can operate in China And if they're not selling or distributing their game in China, their rules will not apply. At least as far as I can tell. So worst case scenario, the way I see it, MiHoYo could technically just stop selling their game in China. It would be a huge loss of revenue for them, but honestly, losing one market for a game the size of Genshin, but still being able to manage and operate their game everywhere else, while it would be a huge loss in overall profit, would mean that they would still be operating, which is still a net gain for them. You know, I would rather be able to operate my business at 75% than to not be able to operate it at all, you know? So that is a possibility. If they can move their headquarters, which seems like it would be an incredible feat, I still don't think that actually, what's the word? I don't think it would make them exempt from complying with the rules and regulations in China, though. That's the thing. Like if MiHoYo goes to Singapore, like you're suggesting, and they set up operations there, and then all those laws go through about effeminate characters and whatnot, like they still have to comply if they are selling their game in the country of China. Okay, it doesn't matter where they're headquartered. So if you're an American company and you make a video game and you want to sell it in China, well, guess what? You have to comply by those rules. It doesn't matter that you're headquartered in the US. So ultimately, the HQ doesn't matter so much. That's just the sad truth of it. It would be a large loss of revenue, but again, I would much rather operate my business at like 50 to 70% of its max potential and take that huge loss and still be able to actually operate it than to comply and lose, you know, like 80% of my business, or to be able to not operate at all. Like, it's a huge hit no matter which way you go, but like just losing one market is still going to leave you in a better position than not being able to operate at all. So anyway, I've been streaming for 2.5 hours, I think, which is a long time. That was a little bit longer than I meant to go. I meant to just do MoonChase and then kind of call it good, because now I think MoonChase is done. I'm still sad about the Jade Charms. I wish they'd at least just let us keep one, you know, for just like a souvenir to keep in my inventory, or like to let me. It would be kind of cool if I could like keep like 5 of them and then like hide them in my teapot, and then when people come to my teapot, they could like run around and find my little gems. That would be cool. So anyway, that was a lot of information. I don't usually do ranting, venting kind of like info dump opinion streams like this, but I think they're kind of important sometimes. I see a lot of misinformation. I've seen a lot of podcasts. I see a lot of that kind of stuff, and I'm not saying that I'm completely factual. not in any way. But I do think that because I am one of the older players in the Genshin community, meaning that my age is actually older than most of the people who create content for Genshin. I think my perspective is different on it. I know I don't sound that old, but I am actually. I think I am the oldest Genshin person making content right now. I think I'm at least one of them. I am at least one of them. Yeah. But yeah, always do your own research. That's such good advice. Please do your own research. Never take anything at face value. Like, you have to make your own decisions. You are responsible for your own decisions. Like, take what I'm saying as a launch point for your own investigations. Like, please, please, please do that. And if I got anything wrong, or you have like a really good case to make, absolutely comment. Let me know. I'm like so on board with wanting to, you know, actually give good information and accurate information. Like I got corrected on one video when I was talking about Buddhist values, and the person in question was really good at explaining like what kind of nuance I got really wrong, and it kind of changed a lot of what I was trying to say in the video I was making, and I actually pulled the video and re-exported it with better information because of that. Like, it's that important to me to be able to be on the side of accurate information, even if it means I'm wrong. Like, I don't give a shit if I'm wrong. I really don't. I give a shit if I give you bad information. Like, there's a fundamental difference there. So, like, yeah. I don't care if you guys ask how old I am. I'm a third of a century. How's that? I don't know if I should be offended by the estimation that I'm 40 years old or, like, flattered. Anyway. Yeah. I actually might be in a third. It might actually be a third. I might be, like, exactly a third of a century right now. That'd be kind of funny. Yeah. A lolly baba. Oh, that's funny. I like that. That's funny. Because, like, if you combined a lolly and a grandma, you'd end up with a normally aged person. So that's kind of funny. Hey, I said I was the oldest in the content creation community. Wait, is Atsu really 53? Is he? I didn't know that. I did not know that. I'm actually always really excited when people who are more my age are, like, active in the community. Because, like, no one talks about ages so much. I feel like everyone is, like, 20 when I talk to them. Like, everyone must be 20. I just assume everyone's 20. It's, like, my default age. I don't know. Okay, yeah, see, 28. That's fine. That's what I thought. Okay, real talk. I've never watched any of Atsu's stuff. I haven't. I might have seen, like, 1 or 2 videos at some point, but I don't think I've ever actually watched him stream. Yeah. Wow, like, I guess my demographic might be a little higher than I think it is. I was looking at my analytics, and it looked like most people are about, like, 18 to 27. It's just like most YouTubers I see are like, oh, I'm going to college, or I have to go back to class, or I have to go do this, and I'm just like, oh, you're such a baby. You're, like, 19 in college and, like, just studying for the first time, and I'm like, oh. Okay, that's funny. Yeah, age really is just a number. It's just a number of years you've experienced on this planet, and I don't really care. But it's kind of like your level, right? I don't know about you, but, like, in RPGs, level 27 to about 47 is usually my favorite point of the game. Because that's when, like, most of the world completely opens up to you, but, like, there's still a ton to explore. It's like this kind of, like, really neat mix. It's always my favorite kind of area. I don't know. I'm thinking of 8. Okay, I'm actually gonna go now. I am actually gonna go. But yeah, so I just want to do that today. We'll have more, like, normal streams later, I promise. I just had to get this out of my system. I did say I'd wait till the 2.2 live stream before I talked about the anniversary, so I thought I should just talk about the anniversary, and I didn't want to make a video about it like everyone else. I just don't want to. I feel like it's just an invitation to drama. So I hope you guys enjoyed me rambling for, like, 2.5 hours. I was gonna do a stream highlights, but now I'm just like, I feel like it would just be the whole video, and if someone really wants to listen to me ramble about all of these different things for 2.5 hours, they will. So, anyway, thank you guys all so much for showing up. Really appreciate it. I will see you guys in the next one where we'll have, like, a less depressing stream. Take care, guys. I'll see you later.